Ethan Calloway never imagined he'd trade his dignity for $10,000 and a weekend of lies. But when your 8-year-old daughter needs surgery you can't afford, and the roof over her head is literally caving in, pride becomes a luxury. The offer came from Celeste Arden, billionaire CEO, ice queen of corporate America, and a woman so emotionally barricaded she made Fort Knox look welcoming. She needed a fake boyfriend. He needed a miracle. What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Because fake feelings have a nasty habit of becoming devastatingly real, and some hearts are too broken to risk breaking again. If you're ready for a story about impossible choices, desperate fathers, and love that refuses to stay pretend, stay with me until the end. Hit that like button and drop a comment with your city so I can see how far this story travels. The fluorescent lights in Richmond General Hospital's billing office had the same cold, merciless quality as the woman sitting across from Ethan Calloway. She wasn't unkind exactly, just tired. Tired of people like him who couldn't pay, tired of excuses, tired of watching desperation dressed up as hope walk through her door every single day. Mr. Calloway, I understand this is difficult. Her fingers moved across the keyboard without looking at him. But the total for Lily's procedures comes to $47,612. Your insurance covered approximately $18,000. The remaining balance is $29,000. Ethan's voice came out flat. He'd done the math 100 times already, lying awake at 3 in the morning while his daughter slept in the next room, her breathing still raspy from the infection that had nearly killed her 2 months ago. We can set up a payment plan, but given your current income, she glanced at her screen, and Ethan saw his entire financial catastrophe reflected in the slight tightening around her eyes. I'm afraid the minimum monthly payment would be $850. They told us but $850. He made $32,000 a year managing inventory at a warehouse. His rent was $900. Utilities, groceries, Lily's medications, the car that barely ran but had to keep running because the bus didn't go out to the industrial park where he worked. The math didn't work. It never worked. Can I have some time? His throat felt tight. Of course. She printed something, slid it across the desk. But Mr. Calloway, I need to be clear. If we don't receive at least the minimum payment by the end of next month, we'll have to send this to collections. And Lily's follow-up appointments, I understand. He took the paper without reading it. The numbers would be the same no matter how many times he looked. Outside, October rain hammered the streets of Richmond, turning everything gray and cold. Ethan sat in his car for 10 minutes before starting it, just breathing, trying to remember what his wife used to say when things got bad. We'll figure it out, baby. We always do. But Sarah had been dead for 6 years, and he still hadn't figured out how to do this alone. His phone buzzed. Lily's school. His stomach dropped. Mr. Calloway, this is Principal Morrison. Nothing serious, but Lily had a small incident during recess. She's fine, but we'd like you to come pick her up early if possible. What kind of incident? A pause. She got into an argument with another student. It escalated. We'd rather discuss it in person. 20 minutes later, Ethan walked into the elementary school office and found his daughter sitting in a plastic chair, her backpack clutched against her chest, her eyes red. The moment she saw him, her face crumpled. I didn't mean to. Her voice was so small. Principal Morrison appeared in the doorway of her office, gesturing him inside. Lily stayed in the waiting area, looking miserable. What happened? Ethan asked, though part of him already knew. Another student made a comment about Lily's mother. Morrison's voice was careful, professional. Lily became upset and pushed her. The other girl fell and scraped her knee. It's not serious, and frankly, the comment was cruel. But we have a zero-tolerance policy for physical contact. She's 8 years old, and her mother died when she was 2. The anger surprised him with its sharpness. What exactly did this other kid say? Morrison's expression softened. Something about Lily not having a real family. Kids can be thoughtless, Mr. Calloway. I understand why Lily reacted, but we still have to address it. She's suspended for the rest of today and tomorrow. When she comes back, she'll need to apologize. Ethan wanted to argue, wanted to defend his daughter who'd already lost so much and was just trying to survive in a world that kept taking pieces of her. But he was too tired, too beaten down. He just nodded. In the car, Lily cried silently, staring out the window. Baby, Talk to me. Emma said, I don't have a real mom, so I'm not a real family. Her voice broke. She said her mom says people like us are broken. Ethan pulled over, his hand shaking on the wheel. He unbuckled and turned to face her. Look at me, Lily. Look at me. She did, tears streaming down her face. We are a real family. You and me, we're real, we're here, and we love each other. That's what family is. Do you understand? She nodded, but the doubt in her eyes killed him. That night, after Lily finally fell asleep, Ethan sat at their tiny kitchen table and stared at the stack of bills he couldn't pay. Medical. Rent overdue notice, third warning. Electric company threatening shutoff. The leak in the ceiling that was getting worse, and the landlord who'd stopped returning his calls. His paycheck barely covered groceries anymore. He opened his laptop, typed high-paying side jobs Richmond, VA, into the search bar and scrolled through the same useless results he'd seen a dozen times. Uber driving required a car that didn't sound like it was dying. DoorDash, same problem. The Plasma Donation Center paid $40 twice a week, which wasn't nothing, but it wasn't $29,000. His email dinged. Spam, probably. He almost didn't look. Subject: unique opportunity. Compensation $10,000. Ethan's cursor hovered over delete. Probably a scam. Definitely a scam. But $10,000. He clicked. Mr. Calloway, you don't know me, but I've been following your situation through a mutual acquaintance. I have a business proposal that requires discretion, professionalism, and someone who understands the value of keeping their word. The job is simple. Accompany me to a family gathering for one weekend and pose as my significant other. No physical intimacy required. Complete confidentiality essential. Compensation is $10,000, paid half up front, half upon completion. If you're interested, reply to this email and we'll arrange a meeting. C.A. Ethan read it 3 times. Scam. Had to be. Except, what mutual acquaintance? He scrolled down, saw a name at the bottom in small print, referred by Dr. Sarah Chen, Richmond General. Dr. Chen, Lily's primary care physician, the one who always seemed to know more about their financial situation than Ethan told her, who sometimes forgot to bill for follow-up visits, who'd given Lily that stuffed rabbit last Christmas. His hands were shaking again. $10,000. Enough to make a massive dent in the medical bills. Enough to fix the roof, pay rent, keep the lights on, buy Lily new shoes that actually fit. He hit reply before he could overthink it. I'm interested. When can we meet? The response came back in under 2 minutes. Tomorrow, 6 p.m., the Jefferson Hotel lobby. I'll find you. Celeste Arden. Ethan Googled the name. The first result made his stomach drop. Celeste Arden, 31, CEO of Arden Industries, a technology and investment firm worth approximately $2.3 billion. Forbes, 30. Under 30. Multiple profiles calling her brilliant, ruthless, and impenetrable. Photos showed a woman with sharp cheekbones, dark hair pulled back severely, and eyes that looked like they'd never smiled in their life. He was about to be propositioned by a billionaire to pretend to be her boyfriend. Ethan closed the laptop and laughed, once, a sound without any humor in it at all. His life had officially become insane. Eat. The Jefferson Hotel made Ethan feel like he'd walked onto the set of a movie about people who belonged in places like this. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, staff members who looked at his worn jacket and scuffed shoes with the kind of polite disdain that probably came with the uniform. He sat in the lobby, trying not to touch anything expensive, wondering if he should leave before this woman realized she'd emailed the wrong person. Ethan Calloway? The voice came from behind him, low and controlled. He turned. Celeste Arden looked exactly like her photos, except the camera hadn't quite captured the intensity. In person, she radiated a kind of focused power that made the air feel thinner. Tailored black suit, heels that added 3 inches to her already considerable height, and an expression that suggested smiling was something other people did. Ms. Arden. He stood, offering his hand. Her handshake was brief, firm, professional. Walk with me. Not a question. She moved toward the hotel bar without checking if he followed. Ethan did, feeling like he'd just been hired for a job he hadn't applied for. She chose a corner table, far from other guests. and ordered sparkling water. Ethan asked for coffee, black, because it was the cheapest thing on the menu. Dr. Chen says you are trustworthy. Celeste's eyes fixed on him with unsettling directness. That you're a good father who's had terrible luck and won't talk about my business to anyone. Doctor, Chen talks about me? I donate to the hospital's financial assistance program. She mentioned your situation, discreetly. And you thought perfect fake boyfriend material? For the first time, something almost like amusement flickered across her face. Almost. I thought, here's someone who needs money desperately enough to tolerate a weekend with my family without making it complicated. Why do you need a fake boyfriend? Why do you need a fake... The question came out before Ethan could stop it. Because my parents are hosting their annual lake gathering in 2 weeks, and they've made it clear they won't leave me alone until I bring someone. They're convinced I'm going to die alone because I prioritize my career over romance. Her tone suggested she found the whole thing tedious. I've tried bringing colleagues. They ask too many questions. I need someone who will play the role convincingly, not try to network, and leave when it's over. Bao, and you're willing to pay $10,000 for that. I'm willing to pay $10,000 to stop having the same conversation with my mother every single holiday. Yes. Ethan studied her. Up close, he could see the exhaustion around her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. She looked like someone who hadn't relaxed in years and had forgotten how. What exactly would I have to do? Attend the gathering at my family's estate. It's a Friday evening through Sunday afternoon. Stay in the guest house with me. Participate in meals, activities, conversations. Act like we're in a relationship. Don't embarrass me. Don't tell anyone the arrangement is fake. Leave when it's over. That's it? That's it. She paused. My parents will ask questions about you. I'll provide you with a cover story. Memorize it. If they like you, they'll back off. If they sense something's wrong, this becomes significantly more difficult for both of us. Ethan's coffee arrived. He wrapped his hands around the cup, using the warmth to ground himself. Why me, specifically? You could hire an actor. Actors perform. I need someone who can be genuine while lying about the relationship part. Dr. Chen said you're honest, hardworking, and devoted to your daughter. Those qualities read as authentic. My parents are excellent at detecting bullshit. They'll believe you. What if they don't? Then you still get $5,000 for trying, and I deal with another year of my mother's disappointment. Celeste's expression didn't change, but something in her voice made Ethan think she'd dealt with that disappointment plenty of times already. He should say no. This was insane. Spending a weekend pretending to date a billionaire whose emotional range seemed to go from neutral to less neutral. But $10,000, Lily's medical bills, the roof, food, shoes, school supplies, a buffer against the next crisis. If I agree, he said slowly, I need half up front, and I need your word this stays completely confidential. I have a daughter. I can't have this affecting her. You'll sign an NDA. $5,000 will be wired to your account tonight. The rest when we return Sunday evening. Celeste pulled out her phone, typed something. I'll need your bank information. Just like that? Just like that. Do we have an agreement? Yeah. Ethan thought about Lily, about the look on her face when Emma said they weren't a real family, about the hospital bills and the fear that never quite left his chest anymore, about Sarah, who would probably laugh at the absurdity of this and tell him to do whatever kept their daughter safe. One weekend. I'm your boyfriend. We come back, I get paid, we never speak again. Perfect. Celeste extended her hand. We have a deal. This time, when Ethan shook it, he felt like he'd just signed something he didn't fully understand. But the bills were real, Lily's needs were real, and this stranger with her sharp suits and sharper eyes was offering him a way out of drowning. What could possibly go wrong? Volkan. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of preparation that made Ethan feel like he was training for a role in a play he'd never auditioned for. Celeste's assistant, a efficient woman named Marion, who communicated exclusively via text message, sent him a dossier that read like something out of a spy novel. Cover story. You and Celeste met 6 months ago at a hospital fundraiser where you were volunteering. You've been dating for 4 months. You work in logistics management, close enough to the truth. Your wife passed away from an aneurysm 6 years ago. You have one daughter, Lily, age 8. You're taking things slowly because of Lily. You and Celeste appreciate each other's honesty and share similar values about family and integrity. There were photos of Celeste at various events, notes about her family members, details about the lake estate. Ethan memorized it all, while Lily did her homework at the kitchen table, occasionally asking him what he was reading. Work stuff, baby. Boring work stuff? The most boring. 3 days before this trip, a package arrived. Inside, 3 outfits that fit perfectly, despite Ethan never providing his measurements. Casual but expensive. The kind of clothes that said, "I'm comfortable around wealth," without trying too hard. There was also a note in precise handwriting. Wear the navy sweater Friday evening. See, Ethan held up the sweater, soft cashmere that probably cost more than his monthly rent, and wondered what the hell he was doing. The night before he left, he sat Lily down. "I have to go away for work this weekend, baby. Just Friday through Sunday. You're going to stay with Mrs. Patterson next door." Lily's face fell. "But you never go away for work." "I know, but this is important. It's going to help us with some bills." "The hospital bills?" His chest tightened. 8 years old, and she already understood their financial nightmare. "Yeah, those bills. What? Spin." "Okay." She hugged her stuffed rabbit tighter. "Will you call me?" "Every night, I promise." Friday afternoon, a black car pulled up outside his apartment building. Not a taxi. An actual car service, with a driver who greeted him by name and took his overnight bag like Ethan was someone important. Lily waved from Mrs. Patterson's window, and Ethan waved back, guilt and desperation warring in his chest. The drive to the estate took 90 minutes, heading west into Virginia horse country, where the houses got bigger and farther apart until they disappeared behind gates and long driveways. The Arden estate wasn't visible from the road. They turned onto a private lane that wound through forest for almost a mile before emerging at a clearing that made Ethan's breath catch. The house, mansion really, sprawled along the shoreline of a private lake, all glass and stone and architectural ambition. Guest cottages dotted the property. Gardens that probably required a full-time staff. A dock extending into water so clear it looked fake. "Jesus," Ethan muttered. The driver smiled slightly. "Ms. Arden is waiting for you in the main house." Inside, the foyer alone was bigger than Ethan's entire apartment. Vaulted ceilings, modern art that probably cost more than he'd make in his lifetime, and a staircase that curved upward like something out of a magazine. "Ethan." Celeste descended the stairs, and for a moment he didn't recognize her. She wore jeans, actual jeans, and a cream-colored sweater that made her look almost human. Her hair was down, falling in dark waves past her shoulders. She looked younger, softer, but her eyes still held that same controlled distance. "You made it." She stopped in front of him, studied his outfit, nodded once. "Good. My parents arrived an hour ago. We should establish our story before dinner. Should I be nervous?" "Probably." She gestured toward the back of the house. "Come on, we'll talk outside." They walked through a kitchen that looked like it had never seen actual cooking and out onto a terrace overlooking the lake. The October air was crisp, carrying the smell of wood smoke and water. "My mother's name is Catherine," Celeste said without preamble. "She's going to ask you 100 questions and pretend she's just making conversation. She's actually gathering data. My father, Richard, will seem easier. He's not. He'll wait until you're comfortable and then ask the one question that reveals everything. My older brother, Marcus, will try to intimidate you because that's what he does. Ignore him. Anything else?" Celeste hesitated, and for the first time, Ethan saw something uncertain cross her face. "They're going to ask about Sarah, your wife. I'm sorry, but they need to believe we've talked about this. That it's not a secret between us. It's not a secret anyway." Ethan leaned against the terrace railing. She had an undiagnosed cerebral aneurysm. She died making breakfast on a Tuesday morning. Lily was too young to remember her. "I think about her every day, but I stopped being destroyed by it somewhere around year 3. Now it's just part of who I am." The bluntness seemed to surprise Celeste. "I'm sorry." "You don't have to be sorry. You didn't know her." "No, but you loved her." "Loss is..." She stopped, looked out at the lake. Loss is universal, even when the details are different. Something in her voice made Ethan look at her more carefully. You lost someone too. It wasn't a question. Celeste's shoulders tensed just slightly. My fiancé, 7 years ago. 2 weeks before our wedding, he had a heart attack while running. He was 26. The doctor said it was a congenital defect no one knew about. 1 minute he was alive, the next minute he wasn't, and I never got to say goodbye. That's why you don't date. That's why I built a company instead. Her smile was brittle. Turns out you can't lose what you never let yourself have. They stood in silence. Two people who'd had love ripped away from them, pretending to have found it again for an audience that didn't know the difference. The absurdity of it should have been funny. It wasn't. Celeste! A woman's voice called from inside the house, bright and commanding. Darling, where are you? Celeste's entire posture changed, straightening into something more formal. She glanced at Ethan. Ready? No. Good. Neither am I. She held out her hand. But we're doing this anyway. Ethan took her hand. Her fingers were cold, her grip tight. Together, they walked back inside to perform the lie that was going to save him. Catherine Arden was exactly what Ethan expected. Elegant, sharp-eyed, and capable of making you feel simultaneously welcomed and evaluated within the same sentence. She embraced Celeste, then turned to Ethan with a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. You must be Ethan. We've heard so little about you, which, knowing my daughter, probably means she's serious. She clasped his hand warmly. I'm Catherine. Please, make yourself at home. Richard Arden was quieter, assessing Ethan with a handshake and a thoughtful nod. Marcus, Celeste's older brother, barely looked up from his phone when they were introduced. Dinner was served in a dining room with a view of the lake, and Ethan felt like he'd walked into a performance where everyone knew their lines except him. Catherine asked questions disguised as small talk. Where did he grow up? What did his parents do? How did he and Celeste meet? Ethan stuck to the script, surprised by how easily the lies came. Maybe because parts of it were true. He did volunteer at hospital fundraisers sometimes. He did value honesty. And when Catherine asked about Lily, his entire face changed in a way that no acting could fake. She's 8, smart as hell, stubborn, and the best thing that ever happened to me. Celeste mentioned you're raising her alone, Catherine said gently. Yeah, my wife died 6 years ago. Us. The table went quiet. Richard's expression softened. Even Marcus looked up. I'm so sorry, Catherine said, and this time it sounded genuine. That must have been incredibly difficult. It was. It is. But Lily needed me to keep going, so I did. Celeste's hand found his under the table, squeezing once. He squeezed back, and the gesture felt less like performance and more like something real. The evening continued with wine and conversation that gradually felt less like an interrogation. Catherine told stories about Celeste as a child. Brilliant, driven, and completely incapable of accepting that some things couldn't be solved through logic and determination. She tried to negotiate bedtime when she was 5, Richard added, smiling. Came to us with a full presentation on why 8:30 was more optimal than 7:30. Did it work? Ethan asked. She got 8, Celeste said dryly. Compromise isn't surrender if you gain something. Later, after dinner, Celeste walked Ethan to the guest cottage where they'd be staying. It was smaller than the main house, but still absurdly luxurious, with a massive bedroom, attached bathroom, and a living area overlooking the lake. You did well tonight, Celeste said, standing in the doorway. My mother likes you. How can you tell? She didn't mention my biological clock once. That's as close to approval as it gets. Ethan laughed, then stopped when he realized Celeste wasn't joking. Your family is complicated. My family is obsessed with legacy and terrified I'm going to die alone in my office chair. She crossed her arms. They mean well. That doesn't make it less exhausting. Why did you really bring me here, Celeste? The question caught her off guard. I told you. No, I get the surface reason. But you could have hired anyone, so why me? She was quiet for a long moment, silhouetted against the darkening sky. Because you're real. Everything about you is real. Your grief, your love for your daughter, the way you talk about your wife without trying to hide the pain. I needed someone they couldn't see through, and you're not performing. You're just yourself. Even when I'm lying about dating you, yeah. Even then, she moved toward the door. I'll see you in the morning. There's breakfast at 9, then we're taking the boat out on the lake. Dress warm. She left before Ethan could respond. That night, lying in a bed that probably cost more than his car, Ethan called Lily. Hi, Daddy. Her voice was bright, happy. Mrs. Patterson made cookies. That's great, baby. Are you being good? Super good. She let me pick the movie. We watched the one with the singing animals. They talked for 20 minutes about nothing and everything. Her day, her drawings, the cat that kept sitting on Mrs. Patterson's porch. Normal things that made the weirdness of this weekend feel less overwhelming. I love you, Lily girl. Love you too, Daddy. Don't forget to bring me something. He promised he wouldn't, though he had no idea what someone brought back from a fake relationship weekend with a billionaire. Sleep didn't come easily. Ethan kept thinking about Celeste's face when she talked about her fiancé, about the way her hand had felt when she squeezed his under the table, about how none of this was supposed to feel complicated, and how it already did. Outside, the lake was still, reflecting the moon like dark glass. Somewhere in the main house, Celeste was probably still awake too, buried in work emails, maintaining the careful distance she'd built between herself and everything that could hurt her. Ethan wondered what would happen if that distance ever broke. He wondered if either of them would survive it. Morning came too early, announced by sunlight cutting through curtains Ethan had forgotten to close. He woke disoriented, took 3 seconds to remember where he was, then another 5 to convince himself this wasn't a fever dream. The guest cottage, the billionaire's family estate, the fake relationship that was paying his daughter's medical bills. He showered in a bathroom with heated floors and water pressure that felt like a massage, then dressed in the clothes Marion had sent, dark jeans and a charcoal Henley that fit better than anything he'd bought himself in years. When he emerged, Celeste was already in the living area, typing on her laptop, wearing leggings and an oversized sweater that made her look younger than 31. She glanced up. Coffee's in the kitchen. We have 40 minutes before breakfast. You've been up a while. I don't sleep much. She closed the laptop. Singapore market opened 3 hours ago. Had to handle some issues. Ethan poured coffee, black and strong. Do you ever stop working? Not really. Why would I? Because you're human and humans need rest. Her expression flickered with something that might have been amusement. I'll rest when I'm dead. That's dark. That's realistic. She stood, stretched slightly. My mother wants us to take the boat out after breakfast. Fair warning, she's going to try to get you alone at some point. She thinks she's subtle about interrogating people. She's not. What do I say if she asks hard questions? The truth, mostly. Just leave out the part where I'm paying you. Celeste picked up her phone, checked something, frowned. And if she asks about our future plans, be vague but optimistic. She's looking for commitment signals. Like what? Like whether you can see yourself in this for the long term. Whether Lily would be okay with it. Whether we've talked about serious things. She met his eyes. Tell her we're taking it slow, but it feels right. That works. Breakfast was served on the main house terrace. The lake spread out before them like something from a postcard. Catherine had prepared an elaborate spread. Fresh pastries, fruit, eggs 3 different ways. Bacon that smelled like heaven. Richard read the newspaper. Marcus scrolled his phone. And Celeste sat next to Ethan with the kind of careful proximity that suggested coupledom without overdoing it. Ethan, do you sail? Richard asked, folding his paper. Never tried it, honestly. Perfect. We'll teach you. Richard's enthusiasm seemed genuine. Nothing like being out on the water. Clears the mind. Dad's idea of clearing his mind is making everyone else do the actual sailing while he pontificates about wind patterns, Marcus said without looking up. I pontificate about strategy, Richard corrected. Wind patterns are just part of that. Catherine smiled, pouring more coffee. How's Lily doing with you being away, Ethan? Celeste mentioned this is unusual for you. She's good, staying with a neighbor. I called her last night. He felt the truth of it ground him. She made me promise to bring her something back. What does an 8-year-old want these days? Honestly, probably anything shiny or anything cat-related. She's in a big cat phase right now. Ami. Catherine's expression softened in a way that reminded Ethan of his own mother, gone 10 years now. You should bring her here sometime. The estate's wonderful for children. Plenty of space to run around, and the lake is safe for swimming in summer. Ethan felt Celeste tense beside him, just barely. This was veering into territory they hadn't scripted. That's really kind, he said carefully. Lily would love that. We mean it, Richard added. Anyone important to Celeste is welcome here. The weight of the lie settled heavier on Ethan's shoulders. These people were kind, genuinely kind. They thought their daughter had finally found someone after years of self-imposed isolation, and they were opening their home to him, making plans for a future that didn't exist. He felt like a con artist at a family reunion. Celeste's hand found his under the table again, but this time the squeeze felt different, less like performance, more like apology. After breakfast, they walked down to the dock where a sailboat waited, sleek and white against the dark water. Richard took charge immediately, explaining rigging and wind direction with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been doing this for 40 years. Marcus surprised Ethan by actually helping, demonstrating knots with quick efficiency. You pick things up fast? Marcus asked, watching Ethan fumble with a bowline. Depends on the thing. Relationships with my sister, for example? The question was casual, but Marcus's eyes were sharp. Those tend to have a steep learning curve. Ethan met his gaze. I'm figuring it out as I go. Good answer. Marcus yanked the knot tight. She doesn't make it easy, never has. But if you're serious about her, you'll need to understand that her work isn't separate from who she is. It's everything, and everyone who's tried to compete with that has lost. I'm not competing with anything, so then you're smarter than the last 3 guys. Marcus moved to help his father with the mainsail, leaving Ethan wondering how much of that was a warning and how much was genuine advice. Once they were out on the water, the wind picked up, cold and sharp. Celeste sat next to Ethan, close enough that their shoulders touched, her hair whipping around her face. She'd tied it back loosely, but strands kept escaping, catching in her mouth until she gave up trying to control it. You're doing fine, she said quietly, watching him grip the rail a little too hard as the boat tilted. I'm terrified. I know, but you're doing it anyway. That counts. Richard was explaining something about tacking, and Catherine was asking Celeste about a charity gala next month, and Marcus was actually smiling at something on his phone, and for a moment the whole scene felt weirdly normal, like Ethan actually belonged in this world of sailboats and estate weekends and families who had conversations while the wind tried to steal their words. Then Catherine maneuvered next to him while Celeste was helping her father adjust something, and normal evaporated. Can I be frank with you, Ethan? Please. I've never seen Celeste like this, and I don't mean the hand-holding or the soft looks, though those are lovely. Catherine's voice was low, meant just for him. I mean the way she talks about you when you're not in the room, the way she checks her phone more often, the way she actually left a board meeting early last week because you called. Ethan's stomach dropped. Celeste hadn't mentioned that. Hadn't mentioned talking about him at all, actually, because why would she? This was fake. Except Catherine was describing things that suggested Celeste had gone off script. She hasn't had anyone since Julian died, Catherine continued. 7 years of watching her bury herself in work, refusing to even try. So forgive me for being protective, but I need to know your intentions are genuine, because if you hurt her, you'll have me to deal with, and I assure you that's not pleasant. The threat was delivered with perfect politeness, but Ethan heard the steel underneath. This woman loved her daughter fiercely, and he was lying to her face. I care about her, he said, which felt like the only true thing he could offer. And I'm not going anywhere unless she wants me to. Catherine studied him for a long moment, then nodded. Good. That's all I needed to hear. When they returned to the dock 2 hours later, Ethan's hands were numb from cold and his head was spinning from more than just the wind. Celeste touched his arm as they walked back toward the guest cottage. My mother cornered you. How'd you know? Because that's what she does, and you look shell-shocked. Celeste's jaw tightened. What did she say? That you left a board meeting early for me last week. Celeste stopped walking. She wasn't supposed to mention that. Did it actually happen? A pause. You called while I was in the meeting. About Lily's school situation. I could hear in your voice that you were upset, so I stepped out. Celeste, it was 15 minutes. The board didn't care. That's not the point. Ethan turned to face her. You're supposed to be pretending to care about me, not actually caring. I don't care about you, she said too quickly. I care about maintaining a convincing performance. There's a difference. Is there? She looked away toward the lake, her expression unreadable. We should get ready for lunch. My mother invited some family friends. More people to convince. She walked away before Ethan could push further, leaving him standing on the path wondering what the hell was happening. This was a business arrangement, a transaction. He plays boyfriend. She pays him, they both walk away clean. Except nothing about this felt clean anymore. Lunch was worse because there were more people. Family friends who'd known Celeste since childhood, who remembered Julian, who watched Ethan with curiosity that bordered on suspicion. He stuck to the script, smiled when appropriate, answered questions about his job and his daughter, and felt like a fraud the entire time. A woman named Patricia, who apparently went to college with Catherine, pulled him aside during dessert. You're very different from Julian, she said, not unkindly. He was more polished, old money, you know. Not that there's anything wrong with working-class roots, of course. Ethan had never wanted to leave a place more in his entire life. Celeste and I come from different backgrounds. It hasn't been a problem. Well, love doesn't care about bank accounts, does it? Patricia smiled, patted his arm. Though I imagine the adjustment must be significant, her world can be quite overwhelming. I'm managing. I'm sure you are. You seem like a very solid, grounded person. That's probably exactly what she needs, someone to keep her tethered. Patricia moved closer, lowering her voice. Between us, I worried she'd never move on from Julian. Such a tragedy, that. They were perfect together. But maybe perfect isn't what she needs now. Maybe she needs real. The irony would have been funny if Ethan's chest didn't feel tight. He excused himself, walked to the bathroom, and stood over the sink trying to breathe normally. This was wrong. All of it. These people thought he was something he wasn't. Thought Celeste had finally healed enough to try again. Thought this relationship was some kind of beautiful second chance, when really it was just a desperate man taking money to lie. His phone buzzed. Lily, texting with Mrs. Patterson's help. Daddy, I miss you. Mrs. Patterson says one more day. Bring me a present. Ethan stared at the message. This was why he was here. Not for Celeste's performance, not for her family's approval. For Lily, for the hospital bills and the roof, and the chance to give his daughter something better than fear and instability. He texted back, Miss you too, baby. Biggest present ever. Promise. When he emerged, Celeste was standing in the hallway, clearly waiting for him. You okay? Define okay. Still breathing, not actively running for the exit. Then yeah, I'm okay. She stepped closer, and Ethan noticed the exhaustion around her eyes, the tension in her shoulders. She was performing too, just in a different way, pretending this wasn't hard. Pretending she didn't notice her family's hope, or their guests' judgment, or the ghost of her dead fiancé hanging over every conversation. I'm sorry, she said quietly. This is harder than I expected it to be. Because they actually like me? Because they're getting attached to the idea of us. And when this ends, they're going to be disappointed. In me, mostly. For failing again. Her voice went flat. They'll think I sabotaged another relationship because I can't let go of Julian, or because I prioritize work over people, or whatever other reason they've already decided is my fatal flaw. You could tell them the truth, but Celeste laughed, sharp and humorless. And say what? That I paid someone to pretend to love me for a weekend because I'm too broken to do it for real? That would go over fantastically. You're not broken. You don't know that, B. I know you left a board meeting to call me back. I know you memorized details about Lily's stuffed rabbit so you could ask about it. I know you're exhausted, but you're still performing for your family because you love them even when they suffocate you. Ethan surprised himself with the intensity in his voice. Ethan surprised. That doesn't sound broken to me. That sounds human. Celeste stared at him, something vulnerable flickering across her face before she shut it down. We should get back. They'll wonder where we went. But that evening, after the guests left and dinner was finished, Richard suggested a fire down by the lake. They gathered on the shore, the 5 of them, with blankets and whiskey and the kind of comfortable silence that comes from family who's known each other forever. Marcus was the first to break it. "So, Ethan, what are your intentions with my sister?" "Marcus," Celeste said sharply. "What?" "It's a legitimate question. You bring a guy home, we're allowed to vet him. I'm 31, not 16. And yet here we are, having the same conversation Dad should have had when you were 16. Richard chuckled. "I did have that conversation. With Julian. Remember? You were eavesdropping." The name dropped into the conversation like a stone into still water. Catherine's expression tightened. Celeste went very still. Marcus at least had the decency to look uncomfortable. "I'm sorry," Richard said quickly. "I didn't mean—" "It's fine," Celeste said, her voice controlled. "Julian was part of my life. That's not going to change just because I'm with someone else." Ethan felt like he was intruding on something private. He started to stand to give them space, but Celeste's hand caught his wrist. "Stay." He stayed. "I love Julian," Celeste continued, still holding Ethan's wrist like it was grounding her. "I was going to marry him, and then he died, and for a long time I thought that was it. I thought I'd used up my chance at that kind of connection, that it was safer to just not try." Catherine was crying quietly. Marcus stared at the fire. Richard's hand found his wife's. "And then I met Ethan." Celeste's voice wavered, just barely. "And I realized I'd been living half a life, that I could keep hiding behind work and control and all the walls I built, or I could risk it. Risk feeling something again. Risk losing again." She looked at Ethan, and her eyes were bright with tears she wouldn't let fall. "He makes me want to risk it." The lie was so beautifully delivered, so raw and honest sounding, that Ethan almost believed it himself, except he could feel her pulse racing under his fingertips, where he'd instinctively covered her hand with his, could see the performance in the careful way she held herself together. "That's all we want for you, sweetheart," Catherine said softly. "To be happy. To let yourself be happy." Later, much later, after the fire burned down and everyone said goodnight, Ethan and Celeste walked back to the guest cottage in silence. Inside, she poured herself whiskey from the bar, downed it in one shot, poured another. "You don't have to drink yourself numb," Ethan said carefully. "I'm not. I'm taking the edge off." She swirled the amber liquid, staring into it like it held answers. "That was harder than I expected. Talking about Julian in front of you. In front of them. Making it part of the narrative. It was a good narrative. It was a manipulation." She drank the second shot, set the glass down hard. "I used his memory to make them believe in us. That's disgusting. You also told them the truth. About being scared. About hiding. But mixed with lies about you making me want to risk it." Celeste's laugh was bitter. "None of this is real, Ethan. We're not real." "Then why did you leave that board meeting?" "I told you." "Bullshit. You left because you wanted to make sure Lily and I were okay. Not because the performance demanded it, because you actually cared. Don't." Her voice went sharp. "Don't assign meaning to things that don't have it." "Why not? You're doing the same thing, pretending this is pure transaction when you're clearly feeling—" "Feeling what?" She spun to face him, eyes blazing. "What am I feeling, Ethan? Please, enlighten me. Something, anything, more than you want to admit." "You're projecting. Maybe. Or maybe we're both lying to ourselves about what this is becoming." The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Celeste's chest was rising and falling too quickly, her carefully maintained control finally cracking. "This can't become anything," she said, quieter now. "You understand that, right? When we leave here tomorrow, this ends. You go back to your life, I go back to mine, and we pretend this weekend never happened. Is that what you want?" "It's what we agreed to." "That's not what I asked." Celeste looked at him for a long moment, her expression unreadable. Then she turned away. "I'm going to bed. Alone. We leave at 10 tomorrow. Pack your things tonight." She disappeared into the bedroom, closing the door with deliberate gentleness that somehow felt worse than slamming it. Ethan stood in the living room, his heart pounding, wondering how a fake relationship had managed to feel more real than anything he'd experienced in the 6 years since Sarah died. He slept on the couch, barely, and woke to find Celeste already dressed and packed, her mask firmly back in place. "Morning," she said, polite and distant. "Coffee's ready." Breakfast with her family was subdued. Catherine hugged them both, made Ethan promise to visit again soon, told Celeste she looked happier than she had in years. Richard shook Ethan's hand with genuine warmth. Even Marcus seemed marginally less hostile. The drive back to Richmond was silent for the first hour. Finally, Celeste spoke. "I'll transfer the remaining $5,000 to your account tonight. The NDA still stands. You don't talk about this weekend to anyone. I know. And I'd appreciate it if we don't contact each other after this. Clean break. Easier for everyone. Right, easier." More silence. The city appeared on the horizon, all concrete and traffic and reality. "For what it's worth," Celeste said as they pulled onto Ethan's street, "you were very good at this. Convincing, natural. My family believed it completely. So did I sometimes." She didn't respond to that. The car stopped outside his building. Ethan grabbed his bag, hesitated. "Celeste, don't!" Her voice was gentle but firm. "Whatever you're going to say, don't. This was always going to end here. We both knew that." He wanted to argue, wanted to tell her that knowing something and accepting it were different things, wanted to ask if she'd felt even a fraction of what he'd felt when her hand found his under the table, or when. She talked about Julian by the fire, or when she looked at him like he was something more than a transaction. Instead, he said, "Thank you for the opportunity. I hope you get what you need from your family." He got out before she could respond, walked into his building without looking back. Behind him, he heard the car pull away. Mrs. Patterson met him at the door with Lily, who launched herself into his arms, shrieking about how much she missed him. "I got you something," Ethan said, pulling out a small stuffed cat he'd bought at a gas station on the way back. Not from the estate, not from Celeste's world. Something simple and real. Lily loved it anyway, hugged it to her chest, told him she was going to name it Whiskers, and it was the best present ever. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan checked his bank account. The $5,000 had arrived exactly as promised. $29,000 in medical debt suddenly looked manageable. The roof could be fixed. The bills could be paid. He'd saved them, at least temporarily. So why did he feel like he'd lost something? 3 days passed. Ethan went back to work, picked Lily up from school, made dinner, helped with homework, lived his life exactly the way he had before. Except his phone felt heavier in his pocket, like he was waiting for a message that would never come. On the 4th day, Dr. Chen called him into her office during Lily's checkup. "I heard the weekend went well," she said carefully. "Did Celeste tell you that?" She made a very generous donation to the hospital's financial assistance program. Specifically requested it go toward your outstanding balance. The remainder has been forgiven. Ethan's throat tightened. "She what?" "Your debt is cleared, Ethan, all of it. She didn't want me to tell you it was from her, but I thought you should know." $29,000. She'd paid $29,000 on top of the 10 she'd already given him. Not because the performance demanded it, not because it benefited her in any way, because she cared. "I need her address," Ethan said. Dr. Chen smiled slightly. "I thought you might." Arden Industries occupied 3 floors of a glass tower in downtown Richmond. Ethan talked his way past security, took the elevator to the top floor, and came face to face with Marion, who looked at him with the same efficient disapproval she probably showed everyone who interrupted her boss unannounced. "Mr. Calloway, Ms. Arden is in a meeting. I'll wait. It could be hours." "I've got time." Marion studied him, then sighed. "Conference room 3. Don't touch anything." He waited 2 hours. When Celeste finally emerged from her meeting, talking rapidly to someone about Asian market fluctuations, she stopped dead when she saw him. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" "You paid my hospital bills." "Dr. Chen has a big mouth. Why would you do that?" Celeste glanced at Marion, who took the hint and disappeared. She gestured Ethan into her office, all glass and steel and city views that made his apartment look even smaller in memory. "It was a sound investment," Celeste said, her tone businesslike. "You needed help. I have resources. Simple math. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting. You told me we were done. Clean break. No contact. We are done. This doesn't change that. Then why?" "Because I wanted to." The words came out sharp, frustrated. Celeste pressed her fingers to her temples like she had a headache. Because I went back to my life, and everything felt wrong. Because I kept thinking about Lily and whether she had enough to eat and whether you were drowning under that debt. Because for the first time in 7 years, I couldn't stop thinking about someone else's life mattering more than my own quarterly projections. Is that what you wanted to hear? Ethan stared at her. Yes, actually. Well, now you've heard it. Congratulations. You can leave feeling validated that the Ice Queen billionaire has a heart after all. I never thought you didn't have a heart. I thought you were scared to use it. And you're not scared? She moved closer, her eyes challenging. You're standing here, in my office, after we agreed to walk away. Why? Because you're grateful for the money? Or because you felt it too and you're terrified of what that means? Both, Ethan admitted. I felt something that weekend. Something I haven't felt since Sarah died. And it scared the hell out of me because you're you and I'm me and none of this makes sense. It doesn't make sense. We live in different worlds. You have a daughter who needs stability, not a workaholic billionaire who doesn't know how to turn her brain off. I have a company with 10,000 employees depending on me to make the right decisions, not get distracted by... By what? By feeling something real? Celeste's expression cracked. By wanting something I can't have. By imagining a life where I come home to someone who gives a damn whether I ate lunch or if I'm stressed about Singapore or if I'm drowning under the weight of everyone's expectations. By thinking about your daughter and whether she'd hate me for taking her father's attention or whether she might actually... She stopped, shook her head. This is pointless. You should go. What if I don't want to? Then you're more foolish than I thought. Probably. Ethan moved closer. But I spent 6 years being careful, being safe, making sure Lily never got hurt again by letting anyone get close. And then I spent 1 weekend pretending to be in love with you, and it stopped feeling like pretending. So yeah, I'm foolish. But I'm here anyway. But Mom Cho Dichi. They stood there close enough to touch, the city sprawling below them through floor-to-ceiling windows. Celeste's breathing had gone shallow, her control visibly fraying. I don't know how to do this, she said quietly. I don't know how to be with someone without destroying it. I tried with Julian, and he died before we could find out if I was capable of putting someone else first. I built this company because at least I'm good at that. At least I know I won't fail if it's just spreadsheets and strategy. You won't fail at this either. You can't promise that. No. But I can promise I'm willing to try if you are. Celeste closed her eyes. What about Lily? What about her? What if she gets attached and this doesn't work? What if I hurt her by being exactly who I am? Then we'll figure it out together. That's what people do. I don't know how to be people. Ethan smiled despite everything. You're doing better than you think. When Celeste opened her eyes, they were bright with tears she still wouldn't let fall. If we do this, and I mean actually do this, not pretend, it's going to be messy. I work insane hours. I travel constantly. I'm not good at communicating when I'm stressed. I shut down instead of talking. I'm broke. I have baggage the size of a freight train. And I come with an 8-year-old who will absolutely test every boundary you have. Still want to try? This is insane, probably. So we barely know each other. We spent a weekend lying to your family. That's got to count for something. Finally, Celeste smiled. It was small and uncertain and the most genuine thing Ethan had seen on her face since the weekend began. One date, she said. A real one. Not a performance. Just us. When? I have meetings until 8. Tomorrow night? I'll have to bring Lily. Mrs. Patterson has book club. Celeste's smile widened slightly. Then bring her. Let's find out if this disaster has any chance of working. Ethan left feeling lighter than he had in days, his mind already spinning with the logistics of introducing his daughter to someone who might actually become part of their lives. It was terrifying and ridiculous, and probably destined to fail. But for the first time since Sarah died, Ethan wanted to risk it anyway. Telling Lily turned out to be harder than negotiating with a billionaire. Ethan picked her up from school the next day, listened to her chatter about a science project involving volcanoes and baking soda, and waited until they were home before broaching the subject that had kept him awake most of the night. Hey, baby, Can we talk for a minute? Lily looked up from her homework, instantly suspicious. Am I in trouble? No, nothing like that. Ethan sat across from her at the kitchen table, suddenly aware he had no script for this. Remember how I went away last weekend for work? The boring work trip. Right. Well, it wasn't exactly just work. I met someone. A woman. Her name is Celeste, and we've been talking, and I think I'd like you to meet her. Lily's pencil stopped moving. Her face went carefully blank in that way kids do when they're processing something big. Like a girlfriend? Maybe. I don't know yet. That's why I want you to meet her, to see if you like her. Do you like her? The question was so direct it caught Ethan off guard. Yeah, I do. More than Mommy? His chest tightened. Nobody will ever replace your mom, Lily. She was special, and she'll always be your mom. But she's been gone a long time, and I think maybe it's okay for me to care about someone else too. Does that make sense? Lily studied him with those two old eyes, the ones that had seen loss before she was old enough to understand it. Will she be mean to me? No, baby, never. Emma's stepmom is mean. She makes Emma call her mother, and she threw away Emma's real mom's pictures. Celeste would never do that, I promise. How do you know, Mom? It was a fair question. How did he know? He'd spent one weekend with this woman, most of it pretending. But something in the way Celeste had asked about Lily, the way she'd remembered details about the stuffed rabbit, the way her voice had softened when she talked about not knowing if Lily would hate her for taking Ethan's attention, that wasn't performance. That was real, because she already cares about you, even though she hasn't met you yet. She asks about you. She wants to make sure you're okay with this before we try anything. Lily chewed her bottom lip, a habit she'd inherited from Sarah. What if I don't like her? Then we don't do this. You come first, Lily. Always. If you're not comfortable, we stop. What if I do like her? And then she leaves like Mommy did. There it was. The fear underneath everything. Ethan moved to sit beside his daughter, pulled her into his lap even though she was getting too big for it, held her like she was still 2 years old and the world hadn't taken her mother yet. I can't promise she won't leave, baby. I can't promise anything will last forever, but I can promise I'll never let you go through something like that alone again. And I can promise that if we do this, we do it carefully. No rushing. No pretending things are okay when they're not. Just honest trying. Can you be brave enough to try with me? Lily was quiet for a long time, her face pressed against his shoulder. Finally, she nodded. Okay. But if she's mean, we leave right away. Deal. Yes. And she has to like cats. I'll make sure to ask. And she can't say bad things about Mommy. Never. I promise. Celeste picked them up at 7 in a car that made Lily's eyes go huge. Not the town car with the driver, but something sleeker, lower, the kind of vehicle that probably cost more than Ethan would make in 5 years. Holy crap, Lily whispered. Lily, Ethan warned. Sorry. Holy cow. Is she rich? Very. Like rich rich? Like we're riding in a car that costs more than our apartment rich. Cool. Celeste emerged from the driver's seat wearing jeans and a leather jacket, her hair down, looking less like a CEO and more like someone who might actually know how to have fun. She smiled when she saw them, but Ethan caught the nervousness in the way she gripped her keys. Hi, you must be Lily. Lily studied her with the kind of intense scrutiny only 8-year-olds can manage. You're really pretty. Thank you. So are you. I like your backpack. Are those space cats? Yeah, they're astronauts, but also cats. Dad says it's not realistic, but I don't care. I think it's perfect. Cats would make excellent astronauts. They're curious, independent, and they always land on their feet. Celeste glanced at Ethan. Hi. Hi yourself. The dinner Celeste had chosen was a small Italian place in a neighborhood Ethan didn't know existed, tucked between a bookstore and a vintage record shop. Nothing fancy. Nothing that screamed billionaire. Just good food and checkered tablecloths and a waiter who clearly knew Celeste by name. You come here a lot? Ethan asked after they'd ordered. When I want to remember I'm human and not just a quarterly earnings report. Celeste turned to Lily. Your dad tells me you're working on a volcano project. It's going to explode baking soda everywhere. My teacher says it's educational, but I think she's just tired of boring projects. Smart teacher. The best learning happens when things explode, metaphorically and literally. Lily giggled, and Ethan felt something in his chest unknot. This was going to be okay. Maybe. Dinner was easier than Ethan expected. Celeste asked Lily about school, her friends, her favorite books. Lily asked Celeste about her job, her car, whether she'd ever met anyone famous. The conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by Lily's questions that ranged from thoughtful to completely random. "Do you have any kids?" Lily asked around a mouthful of pasta. "Lily, manners." "Oh, it's okay," Celeste said. "No, I don't have kids. I work a lot, so I never really thought about it." "Why do you work so much?" "Because for a long time, work was easier than dealing with everything else. It still is, sometimes." "Like what?" "Like being scared, or sad, or not knowing what to do with yourself when you're not busy." Lily nodded solemnly, like this made perfect sense. "I get scared sometimes. About Dad. Like what if something happens to him too?" The table went quiet. Celeste's expression softened in a way Ethan had only seen glimpses of before. "That's a really hard thing to carry around," Celeste said gently. "But your dad is tough, and he loves you more than anything in the world. I can tell." "How?" "Because of the way he talks about you, and the way he looks when you're mentioned. Like you're the best thing that ever happened to him." Lily looked at Ethan, then back at Celeste. "Do you think he's the best thing that ever happened to you?" Celeste didn't hesitate. "I think he might be, but I'm still figuring that out. Is that okay?" "Yeah, that's okay. I'm still figuring you out too." After dinner, Celeste drove them to a park that overlooked the James River, the city lights reflecting on the water like scattered stars. Lily ran ahead to the playground, giving them a moment alone. "She's incredible," Celeste said, watching Lily climb the monkey bars with fearless determination. "You did that. You raised that." "She raised herself half the time. I just tried not to screw it up too badly." "You're doing better than trying." Celeste's hand found his, tentative. "This is terrifying, by the way. I have no idea what I'm doing." "Join the club. I've been faking competence for 8 years." "You're not faking. You're her whole world." So was Sarah, and then she wasn't. Lily's afraid of losing people. Hell, I'm afraid of losing people. We're both walking around waiting for the other shoe to drop. Then maybe we're perfect for each other. 3 disasters trying not to fall apart. Ethan laughed despite himself. "That's the most romantic thing anyone's ever said to me. I should put that on a greeting card. Let's be disasters together." Hallmark would love it. Bachoshisi and Sachen T. They stood there, hands linked, watching Lily play. It felt normal in a way that scared Ethan with its simplicity. No performance, no script. Just 2 broken people trying to build something real out of the pieces they had left. 3 weeks passed in a strange new rhythm. Celeste would text during breaks in her meetings, quick messages that made Ethan smile at his phone like a teenager. Ethan would call her late at night after Lily was asleep, and they'd talk about nothing. Her day, his day, the absurdity of trying to date when one of them ran a billion-dollar company and the other still clipped coupons for groceries. She came to dinner at his apartment twice, brought takeout that cost more than his weekly grocery budget, and sat on his worn couch like it was perfectly normal for someone who lived in a penthouse to eat pad thai, surrounded by Lily's toys and drawings. The second time, Lily asked if Celeste wanted to help with her volcano project, and Ethan watched the CEO of Arden Industries spend an hour covered in papier-mâché paste and food coloring, looking happier than he'd seen her in any board meeting photo. "You're good at this," he said later, after Lily had gone to bed and they were cleaning up the kitchen. "At fake volcanoes?" "At being here. With us." Celeste rinsed paint off her hands, not meeting his eyes. "It's easier than I thought it would be. Your life is simple. I mean that as a compliment. Everything is straightforward. Lily needs dinner. You make dinner. She needs help with homework. You help. There's no strategy, no second guessing, just doing what needs to be done. Trust me, there's plenty of second guessing. But you don't let it paralyze you. You just move forward." She dried her hands, finally looked at him. "I've been paralyzed for 7 years, Ethan. Work was the only thing I knew how to do without questioning every decision. But this, you and Lily, it feels like learning to move again. He kissed her then, soft and careful, tasting like the wine they'd had with dinner and the beginning of something neither of them could name yet. She kissed back, her hands finding his face, holding him like he was something precious she was afraid of breaking. When they pulled apart, Celeste's eyes were bright. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly, "about my company. There's a deal happening, a major acquisition. A man named Victor Kane has been trying to merge his tech firm with Arden Industries for over a year. He's aggressive, relentless, and doesn't take no for an answer well." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I turned him down 3 days ago. Final rejection, and Victor doesn't lose gracefully. He's already started a PR campaign suggesting I'm emotionally unstable, that I'm making poor business decisions because I'm distracted. He's digging into my personal life, looking for ammunition." Ethan's stomach tightened. "And he's going to find out about me." Stomach. "He probably already knows. I need you to be prepared for that. For reporters, for questions, for people trying to use you to get to me." Teen Basin. "What kind of people?" "The kind who'll offer you money for interviews. The kind who'll suggest I'm slumming it with someone beneath my tax bracket. The kind who'll make you question whether this is worth the trouble." Her voice went soft. "I would understand if you walked away. This isn't what you signed up for. I signed up for messy. Remember? You warned me. Not this kind of messy. This is public, invasive, and potentially dangerous to your reputation, to Lily's privacy." Ethan thought about his daughter, asleep in the next room, trusting him to keep her safe. About the life they'd built, small and quiet in theirs. About what it would mean to expose that to scrutiny from people who saw them as nothing more than a story to exploit. Then he thought about Celeste, standing in his kitchen with dried paper mache on her sleeve, looking at him like he was someone worth risking everything for. "We'll figure it out," he said. "Together. That's what we do, right?" Boats. Relief flooded her face. "Together. Yeah." But figuring it out proved harder than either of them anticipated. The first article appeared online 4 days later. Arden Industries CEO's new boyfriend, from rags to riches. Romance or strategic PR move? The piece was cruel in its efficiency, laying out Ethan's financial situation, his dead wife, his struggling single father status, like evidence in a case against Celeste's judgment. There were photos of his apartment building, speculation about whether he was using her for money, quotes from anonymous sources suggesting the relationship was a publicity stunt to make Celeste seem more relatable. Ethan's phone started ringing. Reporters, bloggers, people claiming to be from Celeste's PR team, but clearly weren't. He stopped answering. His boss at the warehouse called him into the office to ask if the attention was going to affect his work. Parents at Lily's school started looking at him differently, some with pity, some with judgment, and a few with the kind of calculating interest that made his skin crawl. Lily came home crying because kids at school were saying her dad was dating someone for money, that they were going to be rich now, that she thought she was better than everyone else. "I don't think I'm better," she sobbed into Ethan's chest. "I just want them to leave me alone." Celeste called that night, her voice tight with barely controlled fury. "I'm handling it. My lawyers are sending cease and desist letters to everyone who published personal information about you and Lily without consent. The PR firm is preparing a statement." "What kind of statement?" "I know the kind that tells them to mind their own business. That my personal life is exactly that, personal. That'll just make them dig harder." "I know, but I'm not hiding you, Ethan. I'm not pretending this isn't real because some vindictive tech bro can't handle rejection. This is affecting Lily. Kids at her school are saying things." Silence on the other end. When Celeste spoke again, her voice was raw. "I'm sorry. I knew this might happen, but I didn't think it would get to her this fast. What do you need me to do?" "I don't know. I've never dealt with this before." "Neither have I. Not like this. When Julian died, the press coverage was sympathetic. This is different. They're trying to make you look opportunistic and me look desperate. Are we sure we can survive this?" The question hung between them. Ethan heard Celeste breathing on the other end, heard the exhaustion and fear she was trying to hide. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I know I'm not ready to give up. Are you?" Meh. He thought about Lily's tears, about the reporters camped outside his building, about the way his coworkers had started treating him like a curiosity instead of a person, about how much easier it would be to just walk away, to go back to anonymous struggling, to protect his daughter from a spotlight she never asked for. Then he thought about Celeste, covered in paper mache, laughing, about the way she'd held his hand watching Lily play, about the version of herself she was trying to become when she was with them, softer and more real than the fortress she showed the world. No, he said, I'm not ready to give up either. Then we fight back. And the next day, Celeste did something unexpected. She called a press conference, stood in front of cameras and reporters and people waiting for her to crack, and told them the truth. My name is Celeste Arden. I run a company worth over $2 billion. I work 80-hour weeks. I've built my entire adult life around achievement and success and proving I'm capable of leading in an industry that still questions whether women belong in positions of power. And for 7 years, I've done that alone, by choice, because it was safer than risking my heart again after losing someone I loved. She paused, her expression steady but vulnerable in a way that made every camera lean in. 3 months ago, I met someone who made me reconsider that choice. His name is Ethan Calloway. He's a single father, he works in logistics, and he lives a life that looks nothing like mine on paper. But he's also kind, honest, devoted to his daughter, and brave enough to risk being with someone who has no idea how to balance a relationship with the demands of her career. He didn't pursue me for money. He didn't see me as an opportunity. He saw me as a person. That's rare. That's precious. And I'm not apologizing for it. The questions came rapid fire. Was this a response to Victor Kane's merger rejection? Was she concerned about the optics? What did she say to critics who suggested the relationship was inappropriate given their financial disparity? Celeste's expression hardened. Victor Kane's merger proposal was rejected on its merits, not on emotion. Anyone suggesting otherwise can review the financial analysis my team provided. As for critics who think adults can't make their own relationship choices, I'd suggest they examine why a successful woman dating someone who isn't wealthy threatens them so much. The answer might be uncomfortably revealing. But she walked off without taking more questions, and the footage went viral within hours. Social media exploded, some defending her, some attacking, most just fascinated by a billionaire CEO publicly claiming a relationship with a warehouse manager like it was the most normal thing in the world. Ethan watched the press conference 3 times, his heart pounding harder each time. She'd put herself out there, publicly, irrevocably, for him. His phone rang. Celeste. Did I make it worse? She sounded uncertain, which was so unlike her it made his chest ache. You were incredible. I might have just tanked my company's stock price by admitting I have emotions. Pretty sure your company's stock price can survive you being human. We'll see. How's Lily? Better, actually. Apparently calling out reporters on national television is considered cool by 8-year-olds. Celeste laughed, the sound shaky with relief. Good. That's good. Listen, I need to see you, both of you. Can I come over tonight? Always. She arrived 2 hours later with Thai food, ice cream, and a stuffed cat almost as big as Lily that she claimed she'd passed in a store window and couldn't resist. Lily loved it, named it Princess Astronaut, and declared Celeste officially cool. They ate dinner on the floor of the living room because the table was too small for the amount of food Celeste had brought. They watched a movie Lily picked, something animated with talking animals that neither adult really paid attention to because they were too busy stealing glances at each other over Lily's head. After Lily went to bed, Ethan and Celeste sat on his worn couch, her head on his shoulder, both of them exhausted. That press conference was risky, Ethan said quietly. I know, my board is furious. 3 members called demanding an explanation for why I'm discussing my personal life publicly when it could affect shareholder confidence. What did you tell them? That shareholder confidence is based on my ability to run a profitable company, not on who I date. And if they can't separate the two, they're welcome to sell their shares. She shifted to look at him. I meant what I said, Ethan. I'm not hiding this. Hiding you. Pretending we're something less than what we are, because it's politically convenient. What are we? Honestly, I'm still figuring that out. But I know I care about you, about Lily, About this weird little life you've built that feels more real than anything I've experienced in years. That has to count for something. It counts for everything. They sat in silence, the weight of what they were trying to build settling around them. It wasn't easy. It wasn't simple. The world outside Ethan's small apartment wanted to pull them apart, to examine them under a microscope, to declare them incompatible based on tax brackets and lifestyle differences. But here, in this moment, none of that mattered. What mattered was the way Celeste's hand fit in his, the way Lily had hugged her goodnight, the way they were both trying, despite everything, to believe that broken people could still build something whole. 2 days later, everything exploded in a way none of them saw coming. Ethan was at work when his phone rang, a number he didn't recognize. He almost didn't answer, but something made him pick up. "Is this Ethan Calloway?" The voice was male, smooth, calculated. "Who's asking?" "My name is Victor Kane. I believe you're familiar with my ongoing business relationship with Ms. Arden." Ethan's blood went cold. "We don't have anything to talk about." I think we do. See, Celeste has made some unfortunate decisions lately. Turning down a merger that would have benefited both our companies. Going public with a relationship that, frankly, makes her look unstable to investors. I'm concerned about her judgment. Her judgment is fine. Goodbye. Wait, I'm prepared to offer you $250,000 to end this relationship publicly. You make a statement saying you were overwhelmed by the attention, that you've realized you and Celeste aren't compatible, that you're focusing on your daughter. Clean, simple, everyone moves on. Ethan's hand tightened on the phone. Ethan's hand. "You're trying to bribe me to leave her." "I'm offering you financial security for yourself and your daughter. Think about it, Mr. Calloway. That's enough money to change your life. New apartment, college fund for Lily. No more worrying about bills. All you have to do is walk away from a relationship that's clearly causing you stress anyway. And if I don't?" Victor's voice went cold. "Then I'll be forced to take other measures. I have investigators looking into your background, your finances, your parenting. I'm sure we can find something interesting. Maybe something that affects your custody situation. Maybe something that makes you look like exactly the opportunist the press already suspects you are." The threat was clear. Ethan's entire body went rigid with rage. "If you come anywhere near my daughter, I'll—" "You'll what? You're a warehouse manager dating a billionaire. I have lawyers, resources, and the will to make your life very difficult if you don't cooperate. Think carefully about your next move, Mr. Calloway." The line went dead. Ethan stood there, his hands shaking, trying to process what had just happened. Victor Kane had threatened his daughter, had offered him money to leave Celeste, had made it clear that this was just the beginning if Ethan didn't comply. He called Celeste immediately. "Victor just called me. He's offering money for me to leave you, and he threatened Lily." The silence on the other end was terrifying. When Celeste spoke, her voice was so controlled it sounded dangerous. "He what?" "Said he has investigators looking into my background. Implied he could make things difficult for my custody situation if I don't break up with you publicly." "That son of a—" She stopped herself. "Where are you right now?" "Work." "Stay there. I'm sending a car. Don't talk to anyone. Don't answer your phone if he calls again. I'm handling this. Celeste, he threatened your daughter, Ethan. He went after Lily. He just made the biggest mistake of his entire career." An hour later, Ethan was in Celeste's office, surrounded by lawyers, security consultants, and Marion taking notes with the focused intensity of someone documenting everything for future legal action. Celeste stood at the window, her back to the room, radiating barely contained fury. "We're filing for a restraining order," one of the lawyers said. "Harassment, intimidation, threats against a minor. We'll also be reporting this to the Securities and Exchange Commission. Attempting to manipulate a competitor through personal threats violates multiple regulations." "I want him destroyed," Celeste said quietly, not turning around. Professionally, legally, publicly, he went after a child. An 8-year-old child who has nothing to do with any of this. "Ms. Arden," another lawyer said carefully, "I understand you're upset, but we need to be strategic here." "Strategic?" She whirled around. And Ethan saw the full force of the woman who'd built a billion-dollar empire in her eyes. He threatened to take Lily away from her father to force me into a business deal. There's no strategy here. There's only consequences. The meeting continued for 2 hours. Plans laid out for legal action, security measures for Ethan and Lily, public statements that would expose Victor's tactics without seeming reactionary. By the end, Ethan's head was spinning. When everyone left, Celeste sank into her chair, the fury draining away to leave exhaustion. "I'm sorry," she said. "I brought this into your life, into Lily's life. You didn't. Victor did. He made this choice. Because of me. Because I rejected him. Because I'm with you. Because he sees you as a weakness he can exploit." Her voice cracked. "Maybe everyone was right. Maybe I am making bad decisions. Maybe you and Lily would be safer if I just stepped back." Ethan crossed the office, knelt in front of her chair, took her hands. "Look at me. Victor Kane is a bully who can't handle being told no. That's not on you. That's on him. And we're not running. We're not letting him win by scaring us apart. He threatened your daughter, and now he's going to face the consequences, together, like we said." Celeste's eyes filled with tears she'd been holding back all day. "I don't know how to do this. How to be with someone and run a company and fight off predators who see relationships as vulnerabilities. I don't know how to protect you." "Then we learn together. That's the whole point, isn't it? We're both figuring this out as we go." She pulled him up, into her arms, holding on like he was the only solid thing in a world that wouldn't stop shaking. And Ethan held back, thinking about the weekend they'd spent pretending, about how far they'd come from that careful performance, about how real this had become despite every reason it shouldn't work. Outside the window, Richmond sprawled below them, oblivious to the small war being waged in this office. But up here, in this moment, two people who'd lost everything were refusing to lose each other. Even if it meant fighting a battle they'd never signed up for, even if it meant risking everything they'd built, even if the whole world thought they were crazy for trying. The restraining order was filed within 24 hours. Victor Kane's lawyers pushed back immediately, claiming harassment and defamation, threatening countersuits that would drag Celeste through months of legal proceedings. The business press had a field day, another chapter in the soap opera of Arden Industries' CEO and her controversial relationship, now with corporate warfare thrown in for drama. Ethan barely slept that night. He kept checking on Lily every hour, making sure she was safe, making sure the new security system Celeste had insisted on installing was actually working. The cameras, the upgraded locks, the panic button linked directly to a private security firm, it all felt surreal. Like his small, quiet life had been invaded by something out of a thriller movie. Lily noticed. Of course, kids always did. "Why are there cameras now, Bisha?" she asked at breakfast, pointing at the small device mounted near the front door. Ethan had prepared for this conversation, but that didn't make it easier. "Just extra safety, baby. Some people are upset with Celeste about business stuff, and we're being careful." "Are we in danger?" The directness of it hit him hard. "No. Nobody's going to hurt you. I promise. But grown-ups sometimes do stupid things when they're angry, and we're making sure we're protected just in case." "Is it because of you and Celeste?" "Yeah, kind of." Lily pushed her cereal around, thinking. "Emma's mom said you're only dating Celeste for money. She said it at pickup yesterday. I heard her tell another mom." Ethan's hands clenched around his coffee mug. "What did you say?" "Nothing. I just walked away. But is she right? Are you with Celeste because she's rich? Look at me, Lily." He waited until she did. "I'm with Celeste because she makes me happy. Because she's smart and funny and she cares about you. Because when I'm with her, I remember what it feels like to want something for myself, not just for survival. Money has nothing to do with it. Do you understand? But she does help with money stuff, right? Like the hospital bills?" There was no point lying. Lily was too smart. "She did help with that, yeah. But that happened after I already cared about her. And even if she didn't have any money at all, I'd still want to be with her." Lily studied him with those old eyes. "Okay, I believe you. But Emma's mom is mean and I don't like her. Join the club, baby." School drop-off that morning was worse than usual. Ethan felt the stares, heard the whispered conversations that stopped when he got too close. One father he'd always been friendly with suddenly had somewhere else to be. A mother who usually made small talk looked right through him like he didn't exist. Principal Morrison caught him before he could leave. "Mr. Calloway, could I have a word?" His stomach sank. "Is Lily in trouble again?" "No, nothing like that. I wanted to check in. I've noticed some tension among the parents, comments being made. I want to make sure Lily isn't being affected by adult drama that has nothing to do with her. She's handling it better than I am, honestly." Kids are resilient, but they're also vulnerable to social dynamics they don't fully understand. Morrison's expression was kind but concerned. "If things get difficult, if Lily needs support, my door is always open, and for what it's worth, I think the parents gossiping need to examine their own lives before judging yours." It was a small kindness, but it nearly broke him. Ethan nodded, not trusting himself to speak, and left before the emotion in his chest could escape. Work was its own nightmare. His supervisor called him in again, this time with someone from HR present. "Ethan, we need to discuss the media attention you've been receiving and how it's affecting your position here." I'm doing my job. The attention hasn't interfered with my work. Not yet, but we've had reporters calling, asking about you. We've had employees distracted by the news coverage. And frankly, the optics of one of our warehouse managers dating a billionaire CEO, while tabloids speculate about motivations. It's not a good look for the company. Ethan felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Are you firing me?" "We're suggesting you take a leave of absence, paid, until the media circus dies down and things return to normal." "That's firing me with extra steps." The HR rep shifted uncomfortably. "It's a temporary solution to a temporary problem." "We value your work, Ethan. We just need to protect the company's reputation during this unusual situation." He wanted to argue, wanted to point out that his personal life had nothing to do with his ability to manage inventory. But he was too tired to fight another battle. He took the leave, cleaned out his locker, and drove home in the middle of the afternoon feeling like his entire life was unraveling. Celeste called while he was sitting in his car outside the apartment. "I heard about the leave of absence. I'm sorry." "How did you? Of course you heard. You probably know before I do at this point. My PR team monitors everything. Ethan, I can fix this. One call to your company's CEO, and no." The word came out sharper than he intended. "No more fixing things. No more using your power to smooth over problems. I need to handle this myself. You shouldn't have to handle harassment by yourself." It's not harassment, it's consequences. Consequences of being with you. Consequences of our lives being public. Consequences I knew might happen but didn't really understand until now. He rubbed his face, exhausted. "I'm not blaming you. I'm just saying I need to deal with this without you making calls that make everything magically disappear. That's not real. That's not sustainable." Silence on the other end. When Celeste spoke again, her voice was small. "You're pulling away." "I'm trying to keep my head above water. By pushing me out. By creating some space to think. This is happening so fast, Celeste. 3 months ago, I was a single father drowning in debt. Now I'm on a forced leave of absence because my girlfriend is too famous and too rich, and someone's trying to use my daughter as leverage in a corporate war. Can you understand why I might need a minute to process that?" "Yes, I can understand that." A pause. "What do you need from me?" The question caught him off guard. Not what she could do, not how she could fix it, what he needed. "I need you to let me figure out my next move without trying to solve it for me. And I need to know that if this gets too hard, if it starts really damaging Lily's life, you'll understand when I have to choose her over us." "I would never ask you to choose anything over Lily." "I know, but I'm saying it anyway. She comes first, always." I know that too. It's one of the things She stopped. "It's one of the reasons this matters to me." They ended the call without resolving anything, and Ethan sat in his car wondering if he'd just pushed away the best thing that had happened to him in years, or if he'd set a necessary boundary that would save them both. The next few days were strange. Ethan didn't go to work because he didn't have work to go to. He picked Lily up from school, made dinner, helped with homework, and tried to pretend everything was normal while reporters occasionally camped outside his building and his phone kept buzzing with blocked numbers. He refused to answer. Celeste gave him space like he'd asked, but she texted every day. Small things. A photo of something funny she'd seen. An article about a topic they'd discussed. A simple, thinking about you and Lily. Hope today was okay. Nothing demanding, nothing that required response, just quiet reminders that she was still there. On the fourth day, Lily asked the question Ethan had been dreading. Are you and Celeste breaking up? What makes you think that? She hasn't been over. You seem sad. And you keep looking at your phone like you want to call her but don't. 8 years old and reading him like a book. We're not breaking up. We're just taking a little break while some adult stuff gets sorted out. That's what Emma's parents said before they got divorced. We're not getting divorced because we're not married, and we're not breaking up because I still care about her. It's just complicated right now. Because of the mean business guy? Partly. Also because dating someone like Celeste means dealing with stuff I've never dealt with before, and I'm trying to figure out how to do that without messing up our life. Well, Lily climbed into his lap, too big for it really, but still his baby. I like her, Dad. She's nice to me. She doesn't pretend I'm not here or talk to me like I'm stupid. And she makes you smile the way you used to smile in the pictures with Mom. That observation hit harder than anything else could have. You remember those pictures? I look at them sometimes. You look happy. And lately you look happy again. I don't want that to go away because people are being mean. Ethan held his daughter, breathing in the strawberry scent of her shampoo, trying to figure out when she'd become wise enough to see through all his protective lies. I don't want it to go away either, baby, but I also don't want you getting hurt because of my choices. I'm already hurt. Kids are mean at school, but that's not Celeste's fault. That's their fault for being jerks. He laughed despite everything. You're not supposed to call people jerks. You do it all the time when you think I'm not listening. Fair point. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan called Celeste. Hi, she answered, and he could hear the relief in her voice. Hi, can we talk? Actually talk, not just text. Always, what's going on? Lily asked if we were breaking up. She gave me a whole speech about how you make me happy, and she doesn't want that to go away because people are being mean. She said that. Direct quote. Apparently she's been analyzing my smile patterns compared to old photos of me and Sarah. 8 years old and already better at emotional intelligence than I am. Celeste's laugh was soft. She's incredible. She is, and she's right. I've been pulling away because I'm scared of the attention, of what it means for her, of losing control of our lives. But that's my fear talking, not reality. Reality is that you've been nothing but good for us, and I've been punishing you for circumstances you didn't create. You're not punishing me. You're protecting your daughter. That's what you're supposed to do. Yeah, but I'm also supposed to model how to handle hard things, and hiding from you isn't handling anything. It's just being scared. A pause. Can I come over? Yeah, please. She arrived 30 minutes later, still in work clothes but with her hair down and her heels traded for flats she must have kept in her car. Ethan let her in, and they stood in his small living room that suddenly felt too intimate and not intimate enough. I'm sorry for shutting you out, he said. I'm sorry for trying to fix everything instead of just listening. We're both disasters at this. Absolutely terrible. She moved closer. But I'm willing to keep being terrible at it if you are. He kissed her then, properly, the way he'd been wanting to for 4 days. She kissed back like she'd been holding her breath and finally remembered how to exhale. Victor's lawyers are still pushing back on the restraining order, she said when they finally broke apart. They're claiming I'm using legal action to suppress legitimate business competition. My lawyers say it's a stall tactic. The evidence is pretty damning. How damning? He recorded the phone call with you, didn't realize Virginia is a two-party consent state for recordings. His own evidence proves he made threats against a minor to influence a business decision. The SEC is very interested in that. So we're winning. We're surviving. Whether we're winning depends on how you define it. She sat on his couch, pulled him down next to her. My board is pushing me to settle. Offer Victor something to make this go away quietly. They think the ongoing legal battle is worse for the company than just giving him a small acquisition deal and moving on. What do you want to do? I want to watch him face consequences for threatening a child. But I also have a responsibility to 10,000 employees who don't deserve to watch their stock options tank because their CEO is being stubborn. She leaned her head on his shoulder. There's no good answer here. What if you exposed him publicly? Not through lawyers, through the press. Tell them exactly what he did. My PR team advised against it. Says it looks reactionary, makes me seem emotional and unstable. Better to let the legal process handle it quietly. But that lets him off the hook. He threatened Lily, and he gets to walk away with maybe a slap on the wrist and an NDA that keeps everyone quiet. Celeste was quiet for a long moment. You think I should go public? I think you already did once at that press conference about us. You told the truth and let the chips fall. This is the same thing, just higher stakes. Much higher stakes. If I accuse Victor publicly and it backfires, it could destroy everything I've built. And if you don't, he gets away with it and knows he can threaten people close to you with no real consequences. What happens next time someone wants something from you? What happens when they realize personal threats work? She sat up, looking at him with an expression he couldn't quite read. You're right. You're absolutely right. I've been so focused on managing the optics and protecting the company that I forgot what this is actually about. He threatened your daughter. She stopped, recalibrated. Someone I care about deeply. There should be consequences for that beyond quiet legal settlements. So what are you going to do? I'm going to call my PR team and tell them we're preparing a statement, a real one, with details, evidence, and a very clear message that threatening children to manipulate business deals will not be tolerated in any industry I'm part of. Your board will hate it, probably, but they'll hate a CEO who sets a precedent of being manipulated through personal threats even more once they think it through. And if they don't, maybe I need a different board. She made the call right there, pacing Ethan's small living room while laying out exactly what she wanted in the statement. Facts, timeline, recordings, and a promise to pursue full legal action regardless of business consequences. By the time she hung up, she looked energized in a way Ethan hadn't seen in days. This is either brilliant or career suicide, she said. Could be both. That's comforting. I'm not here for comfort. I'm here for honesty. She smiled, real and bright. That's why this works. You don't let me hide behind corporate speak and careful positioning. You make me be a person. You were always a person. You just forgot sometimes. The statement went out the next morning. Celeste didn't just release it to business press. She sent it everywhere. Major news outlets, social media, industry publications, anywhere with reach. The response was immediate and explosive. Victor Kane's company's stock plummeted. His board called emergency meetings. Other business leaders who dealt with his aggressive tactics started coming forward with their own stories. The SEC investigation intensified. Within 48 hours, Victor was forced to resign from his own company pending the investigation, and the merger proposal was officially dead. But the victory came with costs. Celeste's board did indeed revolt. 3 members resigned, 2 called for her removal, and the company's stock took a hit from the uncertainty. She spent 18-hour days in damage control meetings, rebuilding relationships with nervous investors, proving that taking a stand didn't make her unstable or emotional, but rather demonstrated the kind of leadership that wouldn't be bullied. Ethan watched her burn through every reserve of energy she had, working herself to exhaustion, defending a decision she'd made because he'd told her it was right. The guilt was crushing. You should rest, he said one night when she came over after midnight, barely standing. Can't. Conference call with Singapore in 3 hours. Just wanted to see you first. Celeste, you're going to collapse. I'm fine. You're not fine. You're running on nothing because you decided to fight instead of settle, and that was my idea. If this destroys your company, then I'll build another one. She said it like it was simple, obvious. Companies can be rebuilt. Principles can't. You were right. Victor needed to face real consequences. And if that costs me some board members and stock points, so be it. I'll recover. And if you don't, She cupped his face with hands that trembled slightly from exhaustion. Then I'll have done the right thing anyway. That has to count for something. 2 weeks later, the dust started settling. Celeste's company stock stabilized and actually climbed as investors realized her willingness to fight corruption was good for long-term stability. New board members were appointed, ones who understood that ethics and profit weren't mutually exclusive. Victor Kane was formally charged with multiple violations, his reputation in ruins, his company being picked apart by competitors. And somewhere in the chaos, Ethan realized they'd survived. Battered, exhausted, fundamentally changed, but still standing. Lily's school called with unexpected news. Principal Morrison wanted to meet with both Ethan and Celeste. They sat in her office, Ethan nervous and Celeste in full CEO mode, despite this being about an 8-year-old's elementary school. I wanted to discuss Lily's situation, Morrison said. The bullying she's experienced, the comments from other parents. We've addressed it directly with the families involved, but I'm concerned about the long-term environment here. Are you asking us to leave? Ethan asked, his voice tight. No. Actually, I'm offering a solution. We have a scholarship program for students from low-income families to attend Preston Academy. It's a private school with better resources, smaller class sizes, and frankly, parents who are too wealthy themselves to care about who anyone else is dating. I'd like to nominate Lily. Ethan stared. Preston Academy costs $30,000 a year. The scholarship covers full tuition plus books and supplies. She'd need to interview and submit an application, but given her grades and the recommendation I'm prepared to write, I think she'd be accepted. He looked at Celeste, who was trying and failing to keep a neutral expression. Did you? I didn't, she said quickly. I swear, this is the first I'm hearing about it. Morrison smiled slightly. Ms. Arden's company does donate to the scholarship fund, but this nomination is based purely on Lily's merit and her current situation. She's a bright child dealing with circumstances beyond her control. Preston could give her a fresh start. Ethan's throat felt tight. Can I think about it? Of course. The application deadline is in 2 weeks. Let me know. Outside, Celeste was quiet until they reached her car. You should let her do it, she said. It feels like charity. It's an opportunity. There's a difference. Lily deserves better than kids who bully her because their parents can't mind their own business. Preston would be good for her. Preston is where rich kids go. Preston is where smart kids go whose parents want them to have better options than public school in an underfunded district. Don't let pride rob her of that. He knew she was right. Knew that Lily at Preston would have access to resources he could never provide on his own. Knew that a fresh start somewhere without the baggage of the past few months would be good for her. Will you help with the application? He asked. I don't know anything about private school applications. I'd be honored. 8. They spent the next week preparing. Celeste helped Lily practice for the interview, teaching her how to talk about her interests and goals without being intimidated by adults in suits. She helped Ethan fill out the paperwork, navigated the bureaucracy like the corporate expert she was, and wrote a recommendation letter as someone who'd spent time with Lily and could speak to her character beyond academics. The day of Lily's interview, all 3 of them were nervous. Lily wore a dress Celeste had bought her, simple, age-appropriate, but nice enough that she felt special. Ethan wore the suit from the lake house weekend that still fit perfectly. Celeste had wanted to come but agreed to wait in the car so Lily wouldn't feel pressured. 45 minutes later, Lily emerged grinning. They asked me what I wanted to be when I grew up, and I said an astronaut veterinarian who takes care of space cats. The lady laughed and said that was the best answer she'd heard all week. Ethan hugged her, relief flooding through him. You did great, baby. Did I get in? We'll find out in a few weeks. In the car, Celeste high-fived Lily. Space Cat's veterinarian is genius. I would have said the same thing. Really? Absolutely. Why limit yourself to one or the other when you can do both? The acceptance letter came 10 days later. Full scholarship, starting in the fall semester. Lily screamed when they told her, bouncing around the apartment like she'd won the lottery. Ethan cried, not even trying to hide it. And Celeste held his hand, smiling like she'd personally fought the school board to make this happen, even though she hadn't. That night, after Lily was asleep, Ethan and Celeste sat on his balcony, barely big enough for 2 people, but it had a view of the city lights and the summer air was warm. Thank you, he said, for helping with Preston, for everything these past few months. You don't have to thank me for caring about Lily's future. That's not a favor. That's just what you do for people you... She stopped. For people you what? Celeste looked at him, and in her eyes he saw everything she wasn't quite ready to say out loud yet. Fear and hope, and something that looked dangerously close to the thing neither of them had named, because naming it made it real. And real things could be lost. For people who matter, she finished quietly, you matter too, to both of us. You know that, right? I'm starting to. She leaned against him, and they sat in silence, watching the city that had tried to tear them apart and somehow brought them closer instead. Somewhere in the distance, sirens wailed. A helicopter passed overhead. The sounds of a city that never really slept, full of people fighting their own battles, nursing their own wounds, trying to build something lasting out of broken pieces. Ethan thought about the weekend at the lake house that felt like a lifetime ago, about the fake relationship that had turned into the realest thing in his life, about how Celeste had gone from a desperate solution to his financial crisis to someone he couldn't imagine his days without, about how love, when it came the second time, looked nothing like the first time, and that was okay. More than okay. It was exactly right. Move in with me, Celeste said suddenly. Ethan blinked. What? Move in with me, you and Lily. My penthouse has 3 bedrooms. Lily would be closer to Preston, and you wouldn't have to worry about rent while you're figuring out your next job. She sat up, looking at him with an intensity that made his heart race. I know it's fast. I know it's probably crazy. But I'm tired of pretending this is casual or temporary. I'm tired of watching you leave and counting the hours until I see you again. I want you there. Both of you. If you'll come. Celeste, cease. You don't have to answer now. Think about it. Talk to Lily. But know that I'm serious. This isn't me trying to fix your problems with money. This is me wanting to wake up to you instead of an empty apartment and conference calls. Ethan's mind was racing. Moving in together after 4 months was fast. Moving in with an 8-year-old was even faster. Moving into a penthouse with a woman worth billions when he was unemployed, and still figuring out what his life looked like post-Victor Kane felt insane. But insane had become their normal, and nothing about their relationship had followed conventional timing anyway. Let me talk to Lily, he said. But Celeste? I want to say yes. I really want to say yes. Her smile was incandescent. Yeah? Yeah. She kissed him like she'd been waiting her whole life to hear those words, and maybe she had. Maybe they both had. 2 people who thought they'd lost their chance at this, finding it again in the most unlikely way possible. When Ethan told Lily the next morning, she had exactly one question. Does Celeste's place allow pets? I don't know. Why? What? Because if we're moving in, we should get a cat. A real one, not just stuffed ones. Celeste likes cats, she told me. Ethan laughed, the sound full and genuine. I'll ask her. And Dad? I think it's good. Moving in with her. She makes you happy. And she's nice to me. That's all that matters, right? That's all that matters, baby. So they said yes. To moving in, to building something real, to taking the biggest risk either of them had taken since losing the people they'd loved before. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't simple. It was messy and complicated and probably too fast by anyone's reasonable standards. But it was theirs. And after everything they'd survived to get here, that was enough. Moving into Celeste's penthouse was like stepping into a different dimension. The place occupied the entire top floor of a building downtown, with floor-to-ceiling windows that made the city look like something from a dream. Lily stood in the middle of the living room, spinning slowly, her mouth open. This is bigger than our whole building, she whispered. Just a bit, Ethan said, carrying in boxes that felt ridiculous against the backdrop of furniture that probably cost more than his car. Celeste appeared from the hallway, wearing jeans and an old t-shirt, her hair tied back. She looked nervous in a way that made Ethan's chest ache. This woman ran board meetings and negotiated billion-dollar deals, but putting their stuff in her home had her fidgeting like a teenager. I cleared out the guest room for Lily, but if she wants to paint it or change anything, we can do that. And there's a study that I barely use, so Ethan, that could be your space if you need somewhere quiet. And the kitchen is fully stocked, but I don't actually cook much, so we'll need to figure that out and... Celeste, Ethan set down the box, took her hands. Breathe. It's going to be fine. What if it's not? What if I'm terrible at this? What if Lily hates it here and I don't know how to fix it? Then we'll figure it out together. That's kind of our thing now, remember? Lily had wandered down the hallway and came back grinning. My room has a window seat and there's a bookshelf. Can we get more books to fill it? Celeste's expression transformed, relief flooding through the anxiety. We can get as many books as you want. Sumat oran det. And can we get a cat now? You said we could talk about it. I did say that. Celeste glanced at Ethan, who shrugged with a smile. I guess we're getting a cat. Lily shrieked and launched herself at Celeste, who caught her with only slight stumbling. Ethan watched them. This woman who'd been so controlled and careful learning to hold his daughter like it was the most natural thing in the world, and thought about how far they'd all come from that weekend of pretending. The first week was chaos. Lily adjusted faster than either adult, claiming her room and her space with the confidence of a child who'd been told she belonged there. Ethan struggled more, wandering the huge apartment at night, feeling displaced, wondering if he'd made a mistake bringing his daughter into a world where everything cost more than he'd earn in months. He found work, finally. A logistics manager position at a mid-sized distribution company. Better pay than the warehouse, actual benefits. The job offer came partly through his own searching and partly through connections Celeste had pretended she didn't make. He let it slide because pride was exhausting and Lily needed stability. Celeste tried so hard it was almost painful to watch. She cleared her schedule to have dinner with them every night that first month, even when it meant working until 2 a.m. to catch up. She asked Lily about school, about friends, about the volcano project that was still somehow ongoing. She learned to make exactly 3 meals: pasta, stir-fry, and something involving chicken that was only slightly burnt, and she acted like cooking for them was a privilege instead of a chore. But the cracks showed. Celeste would get lost in her phone during conversations, her mind clearly somewhere else. She'd promised to make Lily's school event and then have to cancel last minute for an emergency meeting. She'd snap at Ethan over small things when she was stressed, then immediately apologize like she'd committed a crime. One night, 2 months into living together, it came to a head. Celeste had missed Lily's first Preston Academy parent mixer, the one where other families met, and Lily had been excited to introduce her. Ethan had gone alone, smiled through questions about where his partner was, and come home to find Celeste still in her office working. How was it? She asked without looking up from her laptop. It was fine. Lily was disappointed you weren't there. I know, I'm sorry, the Tokyo deal is falling apart, and I had to... There's always a deal falling apart, Celeste. Always a crisis that needs your immediate attention. Always something more important than showing up. That got her attention. She closed the laptop slowly. That's not fair. Isn't it? You promised Lily you'd be there. She spent an hour picking out an outfit because she wanted you to meet her new teacher, and you chose work instead. I didn't choose anything. I had no choice. When a billion-dollar negotiation is collapsing, I can't just walk away and hope it resolves itself. No, but you can have someone else handle it. You have an entire executive team, but you won't let go of control long enough to be present for the life you said you wanted. Celeste stood, her expression hardening into something he recognized from those early days. The CEO mask, the one that kept everything at a distance. You know what you were getting into. I told you I work insane hours. I told you this would be hard. Hard is one thing. Absent is another. You live with us, but you're not actually here, Celeste. You're always half somewhere else, always prioritizing the next thing over the people in front of you. That's what it takes to run a company this size. I can't just turn it off because there's a parent mixer. I'm not asking you to turn it off. I'm asking you to show up, to be present when you promise to be present, to choose us sometimes instead of always choosing work. I'm here now, aren't I? I moved you both into my home. I helped get Lily into Preston. I fought Victor Kane because he threatened your family. What more do you want from me? Martin, I want you to want this more than you want to prove something to a bunch of board members who don't actually care about you as a person. Ethan's voice went quiet, intense. I want you to realize that having a family means sometimes you don't get to be the hero who saves the deal. Sometimes you have to be the person who shows up to a school mixer because your partner's daughter asked you to. I can't be that person all the time. I don't know how. I can't be that person all, then learn. Or admit that this was a mistake and let us go before Lily gets more attached to someone who's never going to be fully here. The words hung between them, sharp and painful. Celeste's face had gone pale. Is that what you want? To leave? No, but I'm not going to let my daughter learn that love means accepting whatever scraps someone has left over after they've given everything to their career. She deserves better than that. We both do. Celeste's eyes filled with tears she wouldn't let fall. I don't know how to be what you need. Figure it out. Or don't. But stop pretending you can have both without sacrificing anything. That's not how this works. Ethan walked out, went to check on Lily, and found her awake in her window seat, staring at the city lights. I heard you fighting, she said quietly. I'm sorry, baby. We should have been quieter. Is Celeste leaving? No, we're just figuring out some hard stuff. Lily was quiet for a moment. She tries really hard. I can tell. She's just not good at it yet. No, she's not. Are you going to give up on her? The question cut deep. What do you think I should do? I think people need time to learn things. Remember when I first started violin? I was terrible. You said it would take practice and I shouldn't give up just because it was hard. She looked at him with those old eyes. Maybe Celeste just needs more practice at being a family person. She didn't have us before. She just had work. That's a big change. Ethan pulled his daughter close, amazed at the wisdom somehow contained in an 8-year-old body. When did you get so smart? I've always been smart. You just forget sometimes. The next morning, Celeste was gone before they woke up. She'd left a note. Had to fly to Singapore, back in 3 days. I'm sorry. Those 3 days were long. Ethan went to work, picked Lily up from school, made dinner, helped with homework. The apartment felt emptier without Celeste there, even though she'd been barely present when she was. He realized he'd gotten used to her, the sound of her typing late at night, the way she'd emerge from her office at midnight looking for coffee, the small smile she'd give him when she thought he wasn't looking. She called every night to talk to Lily, keeping it light, asking about school and friends and the cat they still hadn't gotten. She didn't call Ethan. He didn't call her. The silence felt like its own conversation, both of them waiting to see who'd blink first. When she came home on the 4th day, Ethan was making dinner. Lily was at a play date, giving them space whether she knew it or not. Celeste came in looking exhausted, her carry-on still in her hand. Hi, she said. Hi. Food's almost ready if you're hungry. I'm starving. They don't feed you on planes anymore, apparently. Just tiny bags of pretzels that taste like cardboard. She set down her bag, moved into the kitchen. Can we talk? Yeah. I spent the last 3 days thinking about what you said, about choosing us, about being present. And you're right. I've been treating this like another thing I can manage, another problem I can solve with enough effort and resources. But that's not how family works. No, it's not. Julian used to say the same thing, that I was always half somewhere else, always planning the next move instead of being in the moment. I told myself it was just who I was, that anyone who loved me would have to accept that. But then he died, and I didn't have to worry about disappointing someone anymore. Work became everything because work was safe. Work didn't ask me to be vulnerable or present or different than I was. Moss. She leaned against the counter, looking smaller than he'd ever seen her. And then you and Lily came along, and suddenly I had to be those things. And I'm so scared of failing at this that I keep falling back on work, because at least I know how to do that right. But that's exactly what makes me fail at this. You're not failing, Ethan said quietly. You're learning. There's a difference. It doesn't feel like learning. It feels like drowning. Welcome to parenthood. That's pretty much the permanent state. She laughed, tired and genuine. How do you do it? How do you show up every single day for Lily knowing you might still mess it up? Because the alternative is not showing up, and that's worse. Because she needs me to try even when I'm scared I'm not enough. Because love isn't about being perfect. It's about being present even when present is hard. Celeste was quiet, processing. I can't promise I'll be perfect at this. I'm still going to have crises at work. I'm still going to get distracted and stressed and sometimes unavailable. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for effort, for you to show up when you say you will, and when you can't, to own it and make it right. For you to choose us sometimes, even when it costs you something professionally. Can you do that? I want to. I'm going to try. That's all we need. She moved closer, and Ethan pulled her into his arms. She held on tight, and he felt the trembling in her shoulders that meant she was finally letting herself feel the weight of what she'd been carrying. I talked to my board, she said into his chest, told them I'm stepping back from day-to-day operations, promoting my COO to handle most of the executive decisions while I remain chair and majority shareholder. I'll still be involved, still lead strategic direction, but I won't be the one putting out every fire. Ethan pulled back to look at her. You're serious? Completely. It's actually smarter business-wise. The company's big enough now that having one person try to control everything was becoming a bottleneck. This way, I can focus on vision while someone else handles execution, and it means I can actually be home for dinner most nights. Make the parent mixers. Learn to be the person you and Lily deserve. That's a huge change. I know. I'm terrified, but I'm more terrified of losing you, both of you. He kissed her then, soft and full of relief and gratitude for the courage it took to change when change didn't come naturally. The adjustment wasn't smooth. Celeste struggled with not being in control of everything, with trusting her COO to make decisions she would have made herself. She had moments of panic where she'd slip back into old patterns, work until 3 a.m, miss dinner because she got caught up in emails. But she caught herself faster each time. She apologized to Lily directly instead of through Ethan. She scheduled her meetings around school events and stuck to it. She started coming home at reasonable hours, teaching herself to exist in the quiet spaces of evening routines and bedtime stories. 2 months after that conversation, she came home with a surprise. A tiny orange kitten with huge green eyes and paws too big for its body. You said we could get a cat, she told Lily, who was screaming with joy. So I got us a cat. Shelter said her name is Pumpkin, but we can change it if you want. Pumpkin is perfect. Lily cradled the kitten like it was made of glass. She's so tiny. She'll get bigger. The shelter volunteer said she's going to be a big cat eventually, maybe 12, 15 pounds. Ethan stood there watching Celeste explain cat care to his daughter with the same focused intensity she probably used in board meetings and felt something click into place. This was real. This was their family now, messy and imperfect and still figuring itself out, but real. 6 months into living together, Celeste and Ethan were lying in bed late at night, both unable to sleep. Pumpkin was curled between them, purring like a small engine. I've been thinking, Celeste said. Dangerous. Shut up. She pushed at him playfully. I've been thinking about the lake house. About that weekend when we were pretending. What about it? I want to go back. All of us. My parents have been asking to see Lily, and I realized I've been avoiding it because I was scared they'd see through us, see that we're still figuring this out and not the perfect family I sort of implied we'd become. We're not a perfect family. We're barely a functional family most days. Exactly. But maybe that's okay. Maybe they don't need perfect. Maybe they just need real. You want to bring Lily to meet your parents. I want them to know her, to see that this isn't just me dating someone. It's me building something I want to keep. She turned to face him in the dark. Something I want to make permanent. Ethan's heart stuttered. Permanent? Not right this second. Don't panic, but eventually, if you want that too. I want that too. She kissed him, and it tasted like promises neither of them was ready to make out loud yet, but both of them were starting to believe in. The trip to the lake house happened 3 weeks later. Lily was nervous about meeting Celeste's parents, asking a million questions about what they'd think of her, whether they'd like her, whether she had to be fancy. Just be yourself, Celeste told her. They're going to love you because you're you. What if they don't? Then they're wrong, and we leave early and get ice cream instead. Catherine and Richard were waiting on the terrace, and Ethan saw the moment Catherine spotted them. Her face transforming from polite anticipation to genuine joy. She rushed down to meet them, hugging Celeste first and then crouching to Lily's level. You must be Lily. I've heard so much about you. Good things? Lily asked, shy suddenly. The very best things. Your dad tells everyone who'll listen how smart and brave you are. He does? All the time. It's actually a little annoying how much he brags. Catherine smiled. But he's right. Come on, let me show you the dock. Do you like boats? Just like that, Lily was chattering away, her nervousness evaporating under Catherine's genuine warmth. Richard shook Ethan's hand with real affection, hugged Celeste longer than usual. It's good to see you happy, sweetheart, he said quietly. I am happy, finally. That weekend was different from the first one. No performance, no script, just Celeste's family getting to know Lily and Ethan for real this time, seeing the messy truth of their relationship instead of the careful image they'd projected before. Marcus surprised everyone by bonding with Lily over science. Turned out he'd studied engineering before going into business, and he spent an hour explaining bridge construction using twigs and string while Lily peppered him with questions. Catherine pulled Ethan aside Saturday morning. Last time you were here, I told you that if you hurt my daughter, you'd have to deal with me. I remember. I'm revising that statement. You're good for her. She's more herself around you than I've seen her in years. Whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I'm mostly just trying not to screw up too badly. That's all any of us can do. But you're trying. That counts for everything. Sunday afternoon, Celeste and Ethan walked down to the dock alone, while Lily stayed inside teaching Catherine how to make friendship bracelets. The water was calm, reflecting clouds that looked like they might bring rain later. I wanted to bring you here because this is where it started, Celeste said, where we first pretended to be something we weren't, and I wanted to come back as who we actually are. Who are we? We're two people who lost everything and somehow found each other in the wreckage. We're messy and imperfect and still figuring out how to fit together. We're a family. She pulled something from her pocket, a small box that made Ethan's breath catch, and I want us to stay that way. She opened the box. Inside were 2 rings, one clearly hers, one clearly his. I'm not proposing the traditional way because nothing about us has been traditional, Celeste said, and her voice was shaking. But I'm asking if you'll marry me, if you'll let me try to be the partner you deserve and the parent Lily deserves, if you'll keep teaching me how to be present and real and human, if you'll build something permanent with me, even though permanent is terrifying and we might still screw it up sometimes. Ethan stared at her, this woman who'd started as a desperate solution and become everything. You're really doing this? I'm really doing this. I love you, both of you. I want school pickups and parent mixers and arguments about whose turn it is to do dishes. I want Sunday mornings and Lily's science projects and your terrible jokes. I want all of it, if you'll have me. You're sure? Because marriage isn't a business deal. There's no exit clause if it gets hard. I know. That's exactly why I want it. She was crying now, not bothering to hide it. I've spent 7 years protecting myself from feeling anything this big. And then you walked into my life with your honesty and your daughter and your refusal to let me hide behind my money or my company or my fear. You made me want to risk it, so I'm risking it. Will you marry me, Ethan Calloway? He pulled her to him, kissed her while the lake lapped at the dock pilings, and the world spun on without caring that 2 broken people had just decided to be brave together. Yes, obviously yes. They told Lily that night, and she processed it the way 8-year-olds do, with immediate excitement followed by practical questions. So Celeste will be my stepmom? If that's okay with you, Celeste said carefully, will I have to call you Mom? Only if you want to. You can call me Celeste. You can call me whatever feels right to you. Lily thought about it. Can I call you Celeste, Mom, like both together? Celeste's eyes went bright with tears. I would love that. And will we still live in the penthouse? Yes, that's home now. And Pumpkin comes to the wedding, right? Absolutely. She can be the flower cat. That's not a thing. It is now. The wedding happened 4 months later. Not a huge society event like people expected, but something small at the lake house with just family and close friends. Lily served as maid of honor wearing a dress she'd picked herself, purple with stars that she said made her look like a wizard. Pumpkin did not, in fact, participate as a flower cat, but she did make an appearance in photos looking annoyed at the whole proceeding. Catherine cried through the entire ceremony. Richard's speech was funny and touching and ended with him welcoming Ethan and Lily to the family officially. Marcus gave a toast about how he'd never seen his sister happy until she stopped trying to be perfect and started trying to be present. Ethan's vows were simple. I promise to keep reminding you that you're human. I promise to show up even when showing up is hard. I promise to love you and let you love us back, even though that's scary sometimes. And I promise to tell you when you're working too late and need to come have dinner with your family. Celeste's vows were longer, more detailed, very her. I promise to choose you. Every day, even when choosing you costs me something. I promise to be present, to show up, to put down my phone during dinner. I promise to love Lily like she's mine because she is mine now, just like you are. I promise to keep learning how to be the partner and parent you both deserve. And I promise that when I fail at any of this, because I will fail sometimes, I'll own it and make it right instead of hiding behind work or excuses or fear. When the officiant pronounced them married, Lily cheered loudest of all. The reception was dancing and food and laughter, and at one point Ethan found himself standing at the edge of it all, watching. Celeste was dancing with Lily, both of them laughing at something. Catherine and Richard were talking with friends, looking proud and happy. Marcus was attempting to teach Pumpkin to high-five with mixed results. This was his family now. Imperfect, blended, still figuring itself out, built from loss and desperation and a fake weekend that had turned into the realest thing in his life. A year after the wedding, Lily came running into the living room with a piece of paper covered in her careful handwriting. I have to write about my family for school. Can I read it to you? Of course, Ethan said. Celeste looked up from her laptop. She was home by 6 now, most days, though she still worked some evenings. Lily cleared her throat dramatically. My family is small but good. I have my dad who makes the best pancakes and tells bad jokes. I have Celeste's mom, who is really smart and helps me with science and bought me Pumpkin. I have my real mom who died, but I don't remember her, but Dad says she loved me a lot. I have grandparents, Catherine and Richard, who let us visit their lake house. And I have Uncle Marcus, who is teaching me chess, even though he says I'm too good at it already. She looked up. Is that okay? Can I say I have 2 moms, even though I never met one? Celeste's voice was thick when she answered. That's more than okay. That's perfect. Do you think real mom would be mad that I have Celeste mom now? Ethan pulled Lily onto his lap. Your real mom, Sarah, would want you to be loved and happy and safe. She'd be glad you have Celeste mom. I promise. Okay, good. Lily wiggled free, went back to her homework. Oh, and the assignment says to draw a picture of my family. Can you pose? They posed, Ethan and Celeste on the couch, Pumpkin draped across Celeste's lap, all of them trying not to laugh as Lily directed them like a tiny photographer. And when Ethan saw the finished drawing later, all of them together with a sun in the corner and Lily's careful labels, something in his chest expanded. This was what happened after the hard part. After the fighting and the fear and the figuring out. After the world tried to pull them apart and they chose to stay together anyway. After 2 broken people admitted they didn't know what they were doing but were willing to try anyway. This was the family they'd built from nothing. From a fake weekend and desperate choices and courage, neither of them knew they had. 6 months after that, Celeste came home from a doctor's appointment looking dazed. Ethan was making dinner while Lily did homework at the kitchen island. Everything okay? He asked. I'm pregnant. The spatula clattered to the floor. Lily's head shot up. We're having a baby? Lily asked, her voice somewhere between shocked and thrilled. Apparently, Celeste said, still looking stunned. I thought I was just stressed and exhausted. But turns out there's a reason I've been falling asleep at 8 p.m. and crying at cat food commercials. How far along? 10 weeks. I know we didn't plan this, and I know it's complicated, and I know we're still figuring out the family we already have. Ethan crossed to her, framed her face with his hands. Are you happy about it? Terrified, but yeah, happy. Are you? Terrified and happy sounds about right. Lily climbed off her stool, came over to put her hand on Celeste's still flat stomach. Hi, baby. I'm your big sister. I'm going to teach you everything important except math. Dad's better at math. Celeste laughed through tears. We're really doing this. We're having a baby. "We're having a baby," Ethan confirmed, and the reality of it hit him all at once. Another chance, another beginning, another person to love in this strange, blended, imperfect family they'd created. 7 months later, on a Tuesday morning that started with Celeste's water breaking during a conference call she insisted on finishing, their son was born. They named him Julian Ethan Calloway Arden, Julian for the man Celeste had loved before, Ethan for the man who'd taught her she could love again. Lily held her baby brother with the kind of fierce protectiveness that reminded Ethan of himself. "He's so small and wrinkly, but I love him." "He'll get less wrinkly," Celeste said, exhausted and radiant. "Good, because we need him to be cute for pictures." Catherine and Richard visited. Marcus sent an absurdly expensive gift basket, and Ethan spent that first night watching his wife and children sleep, trying to process how his life had gone from drowning in debt and loneliness to this fullness that sometimes felt too big to contain. Pumpkin, now 15 pounds of orange fluff, was unimpressed with the new family member and spent the first week sulking. But eventually, she adjusted, and soon the cat was sleeping in the bassinet whenever Julian wasn't in it, as if claiming him as her own. The early months were hard. Celeste struggled with the balance of new motherhood and running a company, even with her reduced schedule. Ethan juggled work and helping with the baby and making sure Lily didn't feel forgotten in the chaos. They had fights about division of labor, about whose turn it was to handle the 3 a.m. feeding, about whether Celeste was working too much again or whether Ethan was being overprotective. But they fought fair now. They apologized when they were wrong. They asked for help when they needed it. They remembered that being a family didn't mean being perfect. It meant showing up for each other even when showing up was exhausting. On Julian's first birthday, they went back to the lake house. The whole family gathered, Catherine and Richard, Marcus, with a new girlfriend no one had met yet, Doctor. Chen, who'd become a friend beyond just being Lily's doctor. Marion, who'd watched Celeste's life transform from the front row. They set up on the dock, the same place where Ethan and Celeste had pretended to be in love for the first time, the same place where she'd proposed, the same place that had witnessed every version of their relationship from fake to real to permanent. Julian smashed his first birthday cake with the enthusiasm of someone who'd been waiting his whole short life for this moment. Lily helped him, getting frosting in her hair and not caring. Pumpkin tried to eat some cake and was gently redirected. Catherine took approximately 700 photos. Richard told the story of how he'd known Ethan was right for Celeste from that very first dinner, even when it was all an act. "You looked at her like she was a person, not a bank account or a trophy," Richard said. "That was rare. That was worth everything." Later, after Julian was asleep and Lily was catching fireflies with Marcus, Ethan and Celeste stood on that dock again, watching the water catch the last of the sunset. "Did you ever think we'd get here?" Celeste asked. "When we were pretending that first weekend? Not even close. I thought I'd do the job, take the money, never see you again. And instead you got stuck with me permanently. Best mistake I ever made." She leaned against him, and he wrapped his arms around her, around this woman who'd gone from stranger to salvation to everything. "You know what I realized?" Celeste said. "That weekend, when we were faking it, we weren't really faking the important parts. The connection was real. The way you made me feel seen was real. The way I wanted to know everything about you and Lily was real. We were just too scared to admit it. So we were lying about lying." "Exactly. We told everyone we were in love as a cover story, but really we were falling in love and using the cover story to pretend we weren't. That's very meta. That's very us." They stood there as the sky darkened and the stars came out, and Ethan thought about all the ways life surprised you, how loss and desperation could lead to connection, how pretending could become real, how broken people could build something whole if they were brave enough to try. He thought about Sarah, who he'd loved first and would always love, about how she'd want this for him, this happiness, this family, this second chance at a life worth living. He thought about Celeste, who'd spent 7 years hiding behind work and control because feeling anything was too dangerous, about how she'd risked everything to build this with him, to learn how to be present and imperfect and human. He thought about Lily, who'd lost her mother too young but gained another one brave enough to love her anyway, about Julian, who'd never know a world where his parents weren't together, who'd grow up with the security Ethan and Celeste had both learned to build from scratch. And he thought about what family really meant. Not blood, not legal documents, not perfect harmony, but showing up, choosing each other, fighting through the hard parts instead of running, learning to love imperfectly but completely, building something lasting from broken pieces and desperate choices and courage that felt like stupidity until it worked. From the house, Lily's laughter rang out, bright and free. Pumpkin yowled, probably offended by something. Julian made a sound that might have been crying or might have been sleep babbling. Catherine was calling everyone for pie. This was the life they'd built. Messy, loud, imperfect, real. And it was everything. Celeste looked up at him, her eyes reflecting starlight. Thank you. For what? For taking the deal that first weekend. For saying yes even though it was crazy. For teaching me that love doesn't have to be perfect to be worth it. Thank you for offering it, for being brave enough to try. For becoming family. We did good, didn't we? Yeah, Ethan said, kissing her forehead. We did real good. And there, on the dock where it all began, with their children and their life and their future waiting inside that house full of light and love and laughter, Ethan finally understood something important. Sometimes the best things in life come from the worst circumstances. Sometimes you have to pretend first before you can be real. Sometimes love is less about finding someone perfect and more about finding someone willing to be imperfect with you. Someone who'll show up even when showing up is hard. Someone who'll choose you even when choosing you costs them something. Someone who'll build a family from nothing because nothing is exactly what you both had to work with. The fake relationship had become the realest thing in his life. The weekend that should never have happened had led to everything that mattered. And the desperate deal between a drowning single father and a lonely billionaire had transformed into exactly what both of them needed most. A family. A home. A second chance at the kind of love that doesn't quit, even when quitting would be easier. Behind them, Catherine called again, insistent now. Pie is getting cold. Celeste laughed. We should go. Yeah, we should. But they stood there a moment longer, holding each other, watching the water, grateful for every choice that had led them here, for the fake weekend and the real feelings, for the courage to try and the stubbornness to stay, for the messy, imperfect, beautiful family they'd built from absolutely nothing. And then they walked back toward the light, toward the laughter, toward the life waiting for them. Together, the way they'd learned to do everything now. Together, like they'd always meant to be.